Chapter 598. The moment his body sank into the ground, Scorpion King actually saw the ending of his demon life in his mind. So, was he going to die? When he came back to his senses, Scorpion King was deeply aware of how terrifying the enemy in front of him was. He couldn't resist this power at all, and the gap between their strength was like that between the firmament and an ant. Furthermore, perhaps they weren't even as good as ants, they were just like a pile of rice fields. Scorpion King wasn't the only one who felt this way. All the demon beasts buried in the ground saw the ending of their demon lives. Were they going to die just like this? Most creatures, not just humans, often only learn to cherish something after they lost it. There were many things in this, and life was one of them. War brought glory and pleasure to the demon gods, the rulers of the demon territory, but the pain was still deeply imprinted on the bodies of the demon people. So in the moment when they thought they were going to die when they were buried in the ground, the first thing the demon kings and demon beasts in the rear thought about was peace. The demon world hadn't been peaceful for nearly 100 years, and there were conflicts everywhere. Tribes could even fight over a bit of cultivation resources. Even earlier, all the resources in the demon world had been shared. In that moment, the demon kings and the demon beasts under their command were all thinking about one question. What was it that made them become more and more selfish? If they had a chance to start over, they would want peace, and would never help the evildoer. At the same time, the demon gods of the four territories were also pondering the same question. If they had united earlier, the four demon gods of the inner territories would have worked together to pray and summon Demon Saint to descend, and they wouldn't have ended up like this, peace. That was what they needed. This torture that came from the depths of their souls seemed to go on for a very, very long time, but in fact only lasted for a few short seconds. This was also Jinyuan's method. This spell to bury the demon gods and demon kings and demon beasts in the ground was called the burial spell. It was originally a secret technique of some ancient cultivation sect, and it was full of blood and violence. It could be used anywhere there was soil and sand. It used the power of the earth to bind people, and then bit by bit, it would entangle them to death. But this burial spell was an improved version of Jinyuan's. It wasn't as brutal as the original, and was used purely as a control spell. Together with the soul returning lantern, a spiritual interrogation spell, the two of them were like a golden partner. This soul returning lantern is a 10th grade spell that I created myself. It will make people think from the bottom of their hearts. Where did I come from? Where did I die? Why did I appear in this world? Does the universe have an end? Is there a length of time? Was the flood dragon bald? How do you pronounce Honghu? These are all problems. Loopy Toad suddenly felt that Jinyuan was really a genius. At the very least, apart from Little Master Ling, no one he had ever met had a better understanding of cultivation than Jinyuan. Apart from luck, Loopy Toad suddenly felt that Jinyuan's talent was also a big part of the reason he was able to reach venerated immortal level. Looking at the demon gods and demon beasts below, all of them came back to their senses from the mental interrogation spell of the soul returning lantern. Loopy Toad opened its mouth slowly. Any last words? Do you have any last words? Any last words? Any last words, Loopy Toad? Holy shit! Where did this echo come from? Wasn't this evil sword god's attribute? Loopy Toad felt that this time, it really was a little like a villain. Immortal Jinyuan, oh, that's right, I forgot to tell Senior Dog that the Throne of Martyrs has its own echo-spreading effect. Loopy Toad was alarmed. A built-in echo-spreading effect? Now that it's come to this, we only have ourselves to blame, and I don't want to repeat it. If this Senior Dog is willing to give us a chance, no matter what the final outcome is, even if our bodies and souls are destroyed, we have no complaints. When Venerable Ox of the West said this, the faces of the demon gods of the four territories darkened. Loopy Toad, what else do you have to fight me with? Demon Saint. Venerable Ox of the West said resolutely, as long as Senior is willing to release us, we can summon Demon Saint. Loopy Toad rubbed its head with one paw. I almost forgot about this, Junior. Above the holy pillar. Demon Saint? You want to use Demon Saint to deal with me? Loopy Toad continued to play along with the plot with a contemptuous look in its eyes as it snorted coldly. Why would I need to personally deal with Demon Saint? Jinyuan, release them. Immortal Jinyuan had a conflicted expression on his face. Senior Dog, is this okay? It took me a lot of effort to trap them. All the demons? This is to make them despair completely. Dog 2 pretended to be profound as it said, actually, I'm a little tired after being in the demon world for so long. If this demon saint of the demon realm can amuse me, I can indeed let these rude juniors go. Actually, I've never been one to advocate war, and prefer peaceful days. If it wasn't for the envoys in the peace consulate who angered me, I wouldn't have made a move today. After saying this, the fur on Loopy Toad's back bristled slightly. It had been provoked by its own words. Jinyuan sighed. Senior Dog is so kind. Daoist Witch Demon. Buried in the ground, the corners of Daoist Witch Demon's mouth couldn't help twitching. Why did he remember that it was this green-furred dog who had made the first move back then? It had broken through the window with a flying kick, which had directly kicked Lord Horseface senseless. This plot wasn't right. Jinyuan then snapped his fingers and untied all the demons. He looked down at the 4 demon gods. I've never fought Demon Saint before, but since Senior Dog is here this time, as a junior, I should indeed put on a good show. When you convey your will to Demon Saint, please tell him not to hold back, otherwise there's no way he can defeat me. All the demons sweated. In the face of absolute power, they had no way to refute. At that moment, Ghost Emperor couldn't help asking, this red-haired senior, may this junior ask you a question? He had mustered up the courage to ask this question. Go ahead, said Immortal Jinyuan. May I ask Senior's Daoist name? My Daoist name? In front of Senior Dog, no Daoist name is worth mentioning. The red-haired young man narrowed his eyes and smiled slightly. My Daoist name is Jinyuan. Jinyuan, all the demons' jaws dropped when they heard this, and even second-generation demon saint on the holy pillar had a stunned expression on his face. It was actually him. Chapter 599. At that moment, all the demons broke out in a cold sweat like a waterfall that couldn't be stopped. Immortal Jinyuan, the legendary human cultivator known as the only venerated immortal of all human cultivators in the world, was actually standing right in front of them, and was actually willing to be a hired thug for an unidentified green-furred dog. Atop the holy pillar, Sage Master had a surprised expression on his face. I've checked this dog over and over, and it's just a second-class spirit beast. Why does this legendary human cultivator, Immortal Jinyuan, address it as Senior Dog? This Sage Master was very powerful and proficient in perception and divination spells. He was very confident in his perception ability, which could be seen from how he had seen a mosaic when he had been tracking Wang Ling earlier. In the end, this Sage Master still didn't know the dog's owner's specific identity. But if it was an ordinary person, he probably wouldn't even be able to track down the mosaic. Sage Master sucked in a breath. Is this dog really very strong? Is my perception wrong? The point was that he had never failed in his perception before. Scepter in hand, second-generation demon saint was also dazed. A moment later, he turned his head to look at Sage Master and said, Hen. Sage Master, it could only be said that this dog wasn't ordinary. Perhaps it really wasn't as simple as they thought, otherwise there was no way to explain the situation in front of them. Before knowing Jinyuan's true identity, they had thought that this cultivator was only willing to lower himself to be a hired thug for the sake of the dog's owner's face. But after knowing his true identity, things were different, because Jinyuan's Daoist name was so resounding that it wasn't just in the human world, but also in the demon world. How could such a legendary figure with his own untamed nature easily become someone's hired thug? Moreover, judging from the attitude of this legendary cultivator toward the dog, it could be said that he was very respectful. He practically regarded the dog as his biological father. What are you going to do now? Sage Master asked as he stroked his white beard. As Demon Saint's assistant, Sage Master didn't have the right to obstruct or interfere with Demon Saint's judgment. This was forbidden, and was also a prohibition on the Holy Pillar. This prohibition was also a rule set by the first-generation demon saint when he prayed to the sacred pillar, so as to prevent the subsequent demon saints from being disturbed by their bosom friends when they led the demon world. Second-generation demon saint, let's go with their script first. In fact, I also want to see how strong this legendary human cultivator is. I just need to be a little more careful, yes. Sage Master nodded. Actually, I think the dog's owner's identity might be even more extraordinary. Thinking of those dead fish eyes which had terrified him, second-generation demon saint got goosebumps all over. I'd rather believe that they were aliens from beyond the Milky Way. The Sage Master, later, we can actually study the outer Milky Way. In the past, the first-generation demon saint had actually done related scientific and educational films. Moreover, this educational film is based on the incident of the extraterrestrial gorilla that almost tore down the Holy Pillar. Second-generation demon saint was stunned. There's a science and education film? Sage Master, it's in the Sutra Depository. I'll find it later. It's called, You from the Planet of the Apes. Second-generation demon saint, on the other side, Dog 2 and Jinyuan quietly waited for the 4 demon gods to summon demon saint. The 4 demon gods held hands as they formed a circle and closed their eyes to pray. This was a historic scene, and all the demons present felt that it could be recorded in the history of the demon world. In the last 100 years, there had been endless disputes in the inner territory of the demon world. It had already been 700 or 800 years since the last time the 4 demon gods had sat down together and calmly negotiated. Now, they were actually working hand in hand to summon demon saint. Dozens of seconds later, the clouds in the sky split open, and a brilliant blue light fell from the sky. All the demons present knelt down in reverence and kowtowed one after another. Demon Saint had really responded. Dog 2 and Jinyuan stared at this blue beam of light, and in the center of which a blurry figure slowly descended. Then, the blue beam of light disappeared and turned into a mist that spread out to envelop the figure. Just a virtual body? Jinyuan, dressed in fiery red Taoist robes the color of maple leaves, rose into the air and stared at Demon Saint's virtual body. Jinyuan was a little displeased that it wasn't Demon Saint's real body that had descended. But after all, this was just an act, and there was no need to be so serious. In fact, it wasn't that Jinyuan didn't understand. Since Demon Saint had never shown his face before, he had to maintain a sense of mystery. Jinyuan had always felt that this was a bad habit that had been infected by the damn big-head pervert in some comprehensive entertainment news program. Sighing in his heart, Jinyuan stood with his hands behind his back. A red light rose from under his feet and gave off an even more intimidating light. Dog 2 saw a tremendous amount of spirit power coalesce into a tall virtual figure behind Jinyuan. This was a venerated immortal's Dharma image. All the demons were horrified. The aura of Demon Saint's virtual body collided with that of the venerated immortal's Dharma image, and it was really too terrifying. This wasn't a direct showdown between the two of them, but a battle between a virtual body and a Dharma image. This was because whether the virtual body or the Dharma image was injured, the injuries would ultimately be reflected back on the real body. The showdown was about to begin. Let me see what a legendary cultivator is capable of. Above the holy pillar, Demon Saint used his scepter to control the virtual body as he narrowed his eyes at immortal Jinyuan. The next moment, he slammed his scepter into the ground, and the virtual body beneath him instantly shone with a demonic light as it exuded a kind of withering power, which affected the entire demon world. All the vegetation in the demon world withered. The range of this power was very wide. It was just an aura, but it caused everything within 10,000 li to wither, and it was as if the whole world had lost its color. Was this the power of Demon Saint? All the demons turned pale with fright. Apart from demon gods, none of the demon kings or demon beasts in the domain had ever personally experienced the power of Demon Saint. Withered trees come to life. Jinyuan let out a low cry, and then a pure and holy golden light shot out of his hand, shining in all directions like a rising sun. This wasn't a spell, but a kind of power that could be used at will to awaken and revive the withered vegetation. All the demons stared at the vegetation on the ground. When the two forces collided, the vegetation withered and revived, and then withered again, and then revived again. Dog 2 could tell that the two of them were using their respective virtual bodies and Dharma images to arm wrestle. This was a relatively peaceful method. If they directly clashed with auras, the entire demon world would suffer. It was just that the vegetation looked a little pitiful, interesting. Demon Saint's interest was suddenly piqued by this collision. He slammed his scepter into the ground again to increase his strength. Very quickly, Jin Yuan felt the withered power emanating from the virtual body increase. This wasn't a simple increase, but Demon Saint had added a heavenly Tao to the withered power, using the aura of heavenly Tao to fuel it. Jin Yuan raised an eyebrow, and then controlled the Dharma image to also activate the power of heavenly Tao. How many heavenly Tao do you have? At that moment, Demon Saint's voice came from the virtual body. He felt that Jin Yuan had no more than 3 at most. Immortal Jin Yuan, guess. I'm too lazy to guess, I'll just test you. The virtual body laughed, and then roared, Holy Pillar, please grant me power. As soon as it said that, the withered power instantly intensified once again. In a flash, the number of heavenly Tao mixed in with the withered power increased from 1 to 6. Chapter 600. The Holy Pillar was the backbone of the entire demon world's will. The scepter in Demon Saint's hand was formed from the Holy Pillar, and the will of a world was formed from at least 10 heavenly Tao. So even if Demon Saint hadn't reached venerated immortal level, as long as it had the power of the demon world's will, it wouldn't necessarily be weaker than Jin Yuan. Loopy Toad had already deduced this from the very beginning, but it had never expected Demon Saint to so decisively borrow the power of the Holy Pillar to drive the will of the demon world. Loopy Toad had a vague feeling that something wasn't right. This was a arm wrestling show, and the stars were Jin Yuan and Demon Saint, but Loopy Toad realized that it was the real test. With the addition of the power of 6 heavenly Tao, Demon Saint's power to wither increased once again. This time, it wasn't just vegetation that was affected, other living creatures were also affected, and some demon beasts with low realms had already fainted from this fluctuation. The demon kings of the various tribes felt as if their throats had been choked by fish bones, and even their breathing became rapid. This power was so terrifying that the expressions of the 4 demon gods changed. Although they didn't feel as if their throats had been choked by fish bones like the demon kings, they still felt as if a heavy burden had been placed on their shoulders. It was really too heavy. Was this Demon Saint's power? The demon gods of the 4 territories stared at the sky. Even heaven and earth were stained with a thick layer of ink. Under the influence of Demon Saint's power, all living things were withering. Jin Yuan frowned but wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he closed his eyes and felt the pressure of this will. He had never fought Demon Saint before, and this was a rare and precious experience for Jin Yuan. He had to admit that Demon Saint was indeed very powerful. But Jin Yuan felt that this level of shock was still far from enough compared to what Senior Dog had done on Drought Star back then. Similarly, whoever had a stronger will would be the victor. Loopy Toad had thought that Jin Yuan would ask it for help, but he didn't. It saw immortal Jin Yuan hovering in the sky. The next moment, he opened his eyes, and his maple-red Taoist robes fluttered in the absence of any wind. In that moment, the Dharma image behind him began to multiply and emit an even more devastating light than before. Demon Saint's power to wither had been suppressed. You added 6. Looking at Demon Saint's virtual body, Jin Yuan narrowed his eyes and smiled. I've also added 6, and they're the type that doesn't bring in external help. The number of heavenly Tao you have isn't normal. Demon Saint stared closely at Jin Yuan. In fact, even Loopy Toad was startled. In its memory, Jin Yuan didn't have this many heavenly Tao. The last time on Drought Star, it remembered that little Master Ling had sensed that Jin Yuan only had 3 heavenly Tao. How long had it been? Why did he suddenly have so many more? The heavenly Tao isn't laying eggs. It's not something that can be born at will. This is all thanks to Senior Dog, Jin Yuan replied. Loopy Toad? Jin Yuan, after Senior Dog left the last time, I repaired Drought Star on my own. However, I never expected that repairing the planet would cause Drought Star to develop feelings for me and allow me to obtain Drought Star's planet consciousness. Loopy Toad, Demon Saint, all the demons, there was such a thing. The virtual body of the Demon Saint asked, "Did you find this planet by yourself?" Jin Yuan nodded. "That's right. I once roamed the Milky Way for 1,000 years, and in the end, I found Drought Star less than 1/10 of the way outside the Milky Way. This must be fate. I didn't think that Drought Star and I would get our marriage certificate so soon." Demon Saint, get married? Jin Yuan, this is a popular saying in the modern cultivation world. It means that you have obtained the approval of some kind of will. Loopy Toad and all the demons, what if *** king marriage certificate? For a very long time, Demon Saint was silent and speechless. Because there were times when it was really painful to admit the gap between people. Although he had been forced to inherit second-generation Demon Saint back then, it had taken him nearly 1,000 years to obtain the Holy Pillar's full approval. How much suffering and how many tears had he shed? It was like drawing a gold card in a game. After filling up his wallet and drawing 10 times in a row, he didn't get a single gold card. This was simply a scam. So compared with immortal Jin Yuan, who had used the system's free lottery draw to draw a gold card, Demon Saint felt like an unlucky kid who couldn't become stronger even after spending money. Now that Demon Saint thought of this, his heart instantly felt stifled. For a brief moment, the will to wither disappeared. Second-generation Demon Saint knelt at the top of the Holy Pillar with an extremely resentful expression. Sage Master was alarmed. Second generation. You have to pull yourself together, second generation. Demon Saint's power to wither had disappeared? Jin Yuan looked at the sky strangely. Unfortunately, Demon Saint's virtual body was too indistinct and he couldn't see its expression at all, nor did he know what on earth had happened. What's going on? The demons below were puzzled. It probably paused midway. Demon Saint's virtual body is still there and hasn't directly disappeared. The battle isn't over yet, said Ghost Emperor. Loopy Toad was just about to ask about Drought Star's will, when Jin Yuan turned to look at it and smiled. Sure enough, nothing can be hidden from Senior Dog's eyes. Loopy Toad. Senior said that you could tell from the beginning that I had already inherited Drought Star's will, right? Otherwise, Senior Dog wouldn't have trusted me so much and sent me to fight Demon Saint. I deliberately hid it from Senior Dog before, but I never expected it to be so powerful. Loopy Toad was silent. The problem was that this really didn't have anything to do with it. Apart from Jin Yuan's own luck, it had more to do with his talent to be able to inherit the will of a planet. It was too rare to gain the recognition of a planet's will. The difficulty level was very high. Thus, Loopy Toad felt extremely ashamed in its heart. This was indeed a man to be envious of. Roughly 2 minutes later, Demon Saint's power to wither, which was mixed with 7 heavenly Tao, revived once again. Cough cough. I'm very sorry. Second-generation Demon Saint's virtual body said slowly, I was too curious just now, so I did a little research on the will of a planet. Jin Yuan couldn't help laughing. I didn't expect Demon Saint to be such a studious person. Second-generation Demon Saint, there's always been very little information on inheriting a planet's will, but Your Excellency was able to move the planet by repairing it and gaining its recognition. This is indeed the first time I've heard of this method. I was just lucky. Maybe Demon Saint can give it a try. Immortal Jin Yuan said modestly as he looked at Demon Saint's virtual body. Now, can we continue arm wrestling? To everyone's surprise, Demon Saint actually refused. No, let's both stop, Jin Yuan. Since Your Excellency has already inherited the will of a planet, there's no point in continuing arm wrestling. Demon Saint's virtual body said, if Your Excellency doesn't mind, I'd like to invite Your Excellency and Senior Dog to my Demon Saint's holy palace on the Holy Pillar. We can discuss some issues together. Jin Yuan, is it related to repairing the planet? No, it's just some issues related to cultivation. Second-generation Demon Saint waved his hand and said, I'm not good at repairing planets, but when it comes to repairing, I was actually best at repairing cars when I was younger. There are cars with big headlights, and there are cars with small headlights. There are cars with soft horns, and there are cars with loud horns. I've repaired all kinds of cars. sports cars, trucks, tanks, aircraft carriers. If Your Excellency is interested in repairing cars, we can discuss it together. Chapter 601. Preface. This chapter was written on May 7, 2018, on the way to Guyuan in the Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region for a gathering of writers from the Volunteer Literature Network of the Central Committee of the Communist Youth League. Loopy Toad and Jin Yuan were dazed when they heard this indecent conversation from Demon Saint's virtual body telepathically. Could it be that this guy was also indecent? Loopy Toad did its best to keep calm. Demon Saint's tall and mysterious image had been completely destroyed in its mind. Loopy Toad remembered that when it was very young, it had idolized second-generation Demon Saint for a time, and had collected a lot of different figurines of him in the clan. No one had ever seen Demon Saint's true appearance, so these figurines were all different. They had all been made by master figurines in the demon world. Loopy Toad still remembered that some of them were rare collectibles. They had been sculpted by the famous figurine master Artoria using the Sword of Victory. Second-generation Demon Saint continued telepathically through the virtual body. I've already ordered Sage Master to prepare a banquet. Both of you can rest assured that this isn't a hongmen banquet. Thanks to Senior Dog and Immortal Jinyuan's help this time, the turmoil in the 4 inner territories was quelled, and the 4 demon gods were united against a common enemy. I actually can't thank you enough. Jinyuan laughed in his heart. You could actually tell that it was an act? If I couldn't even tell that, I could directly retire. When Demon Saint retires, he has a lot of pension funds. Second-generation Demon Saint said meaningfully, if Immortal Jinyuan had really made a move, we wouldn't have used the power of our individual willpower to arm wrestle just now. If we had really fought, the entire demon world would have been destroyed. Also, Senior Dog hasn't made a move from beginning to end, presumably because of the bigger picture. You're quite honest. Immortal Jinyuan nodded. If Senior Dog had made a move, you would have died with a casual level 12 spell. Loopy Toad, so, this only highlights the need for our discussion. I hope both Senior Dog and Immortal Jinyuan can come. This isn't just a matter of life and death for the demon world, it also has a lot to do with the human cultivation world. Second-generation Demon Saint smiled bitterly and said telepathically, actually, Senior Dog and Immortal should have already sensed that the human cultivation world is going to be plunged into a catastrophe. The fact that Immortal didn't hesitate to spend 1,000 years looking for Drought Star is the best evidence. Saying this, Immortal Jinyuan's expression turned serious. What do you know? Second-generation Demon Saint kept them in suspense. I'll have to wait for Senior Dog and the Immortal to come to the Holy Palace to explain this in detail. Loopy Toad hadn't expected Demon Saint to actually invite it to Demon Saint's Holy Palace. In the past, this was a place that Buttface didn't even dare to think about. He didn't have any chance to set foot in it. Maybe it would be a good idea to visit it? Furthermore, Loopy Toad was also very curious about Demon Saint's succession pattern. Maybe it could get some clues through this exchange. After a moment of silence, Loopy Toad nodded. We can go take a look. Jinyuan, since Senior Dog has already decided, of course I'll keep you company. Second-generation Demon Saint was overjoyed. Then I'll await your arrival. However, I need to make one thing clear. Due to the restriction of the Holy Pillar's power, I am unable to personally welcome the two of you. I need Senior Dog and the Immortal to go to the bottom of the Holy Pillar together. When the time comes, there will be a Saint Master from the Holy Palace to receive you. Jinyuan was startled. Don't you have an immortal ladder? So low? There's only stairs. Furthermore, the last person who used stairs to reach the top took 300 years. It was really too tragic. Furthermore, he didn't have any supplies in between. He climbed until he was exhausted and almost died inside. As he said this, Jinyuan thought that second-generation Demon Saint sounded like he was about to cry. Jinyuan, why is Demon Saint so clear about this? Second-generation Demon Saint, because that person was me. After Demon Saint said this, the air was quiet again as he withdrew his virtual body and the power of withering. All the demons present were stunned. The duel had actually ended just like that, and it seemed to be a draw. Let's go. Loopy Toad was silent for a moment before it spoke to Jinyuan. Very well, Senior. Jinyuan nodded in agreement and immediately withdrew his Dharma image. The dazzling golden light immediately dissipated along with the Dharma image. After that, immortal Jinyuan flicked his finger, and the heroic spirit throne changed. After receiving instructions, some of the heroic spirits in front of Loopy Toad started to rearrange themselves, and a long staircase actually extended from the top all the way to the ground. Jinyuan smiled slightly, revealing his canine teeth. Senior dog, this way. Loopy Toad, above the holy pillar, second-generation demon saint heaved a long sigh. Sage Master stared at him. I never thought that human cultivators would be willing to cooperate with our demon world. The misunderstanding between the human world and the demon world over the years has been too deep, second-generation demon saint nodded. I originally thought that this was a dead end. But after exchanging blows just now, I realized that immortal Jinyuan is very strong, plus that senior dog, whose realm is unfathomable, and its mysterious owner. If we can join hands, we can revive this dead end. The demon world isn't like Earth, the demon star is in the Milky Way. Relying on the gate between worlds to link the human and demon worlds, I actually thought that the human world and the demon world might be able to develop peacefully, but I never expected it to come to this point today. Having said that, second-generation demon saint had also seen how Loopy Toad and immortal Jinyuan had helped to bring the 4 territories together today. On this point alone, he felt that the relationship between the human world and the demon world hadn't reached an irreparable point. So as long as they were willing to work together, they would definitely be able to overcome this difficulty. Demon Saint continued, although the monster that fell out of the space fissure was just a corpse, if it had been alive, I definitely wouldn't have been able to deal with it on my own. If the strong of our 2 worlds join hands, there's still a chance. Sage Master sighed. It seems that you already have a plan, then I have nothing to say. But I never thought that you would actually have the leisure to worry about world affairs. Although I can't wait for 3rd-generation Demon Saint to appear as soon as possible, I have to at least accomplish something that will be recorded in the history of the demon world during my term of office. How does the saying go? How do you become a successful demon? 2nd-generation Demon Saint thought for a bit before saying, 5 years without turning into a box, 10 years patrolling the mountains like a small drill, 100 years at the peak of a demon's life, even if you aren't a demon god king. Living an ignoble life for 1,000 years without going to the wall, leaving behind merits and fame. If one day I die of old age, my portrait will still be hung on the wall, and 10,000 demons will line up to offer incense. Good poem, Sage Master was startled. I never thought you would have this kind of talent. Before I became Demon Saint back then, I was just an allegro singer. 2nd-generation Demon Saint sighed. If it wasn't for my good luck, I probably wouldn't even be a small drill now. So at least during my term of office, I want to make big news. And then retire. Chapter 602. Preface. This chapter was written on the way to visit the Fudan University Volunteer Postgraduate Teaching Team at Wangmin Middle School in Shiji County, Guyuan City. The Holy Pillar was located in the center of the 4 territories. When Loopy Toad asked Elder Wen to lead the way, the demon gods of the 4 territories were blank. In fact, they all had the vague feeling that this senior dog might have an unusual relationship with Elder Wen. It was just that no one dared ask. Why do I feel that you're so reluctant? Jinyuan folded his arms and stared at the 4 demon gods. No, it's just that, the instant his gaze fell on them, the 4 demon gods felt a chill run down their spines. This was a human cultivator who could rival Demon Saint. It would be effortless for him to wipe them out if he wanted to. Furthermore, Demon Saint had now kindly invited them to the Holy Palace above the Holy Pillar. This wasn't treatment that ordinary human cultivators could enjoy. After all, even they had never been to the Holy Palace above the Holy Pillar. Back when 2nd-generation Demon Saint had appointed him as a demon god, all the legacies had been carried out at the foot of the Holy Pillar, and no one had ever gone up. Among the demon gods of past generations, the only one who had climbed the holy pillar to see the holy palace with his own eyes was Chief Jiang of the first generation of the sky-swallowing toad clan. So when Loopy Toad personally asked Elder One to lead the way, the demon gods of the 4 territories were pondering this. They wondered if this action had something to do with the sky-swallowing toad clan where Elder One was. After all, this senior dog's strength was even more unfathomable than immortal Jinyuan's. Such a mysterious senior dog's every move and every word might have a hidden meaning. For the demon gods of the 4 territories who had been constantly trying to figure out the meaning of Demon Saint's edict all these years, it could be said that they were especially sensitive to the decisions and words of this great senior. Ghost Emperor of the South smiled. It's like this, senior dog, senior Jinyuan, under normal circumstances, only the demon gods of the 4 territories are qualified to approach the foot of the holy pillar. Anyone below that, whether it's a territory envoys or demon kings, can't get close, unless they're the joint ambassadors of the 4 territories. Can't you demon gods of the 4 territories just make the decision? Jinyuan, also, can you not smile when you speak? When you smile, you look like you're crying. Ghost Emperor, hearing immortal Jinyuan's words, Elder One was overwhelmed by the favor. The 4 territories joint ambassador requires the demons of the 4 territories to vote publicly online. There has never been a case where a demon god has personally appointed someone. The 4 realms' demon gods hurriedly nodded like chicks pecking at rice. If I say so, then so be it. At that moment, Loopy Toad said, if anyone dares to object, come out and fight. All the demons instinctively took a step back. The Yao gods of the 4 regions spoke in unison. Next, we will make an official announcement. Elder One of the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan will serve as the Joint Secretary General of the 4 territories Peace Consulate. Elder One, all the demons, watching Elder One lead Senior Dog and Immortal Jinyuan away in the direction of the Holy Pillar, the demon gods of the 4 territories all felt relieved. They had more or less looked down on human cultivators before, but Jinyuan had taught them a lesson this time. When a truly powerful human cultivator stood in front of them, they felt like they had to consider every breath they took. And the most important thing was that this was the demon world. In a situation where there was no spirit chi at all, he was actually this strong. If there was a more suitable environment for him to display his skills, he would definitely be even more terrifying. The demon gods of the 4 territories communicated telepathically with each other. I wonder why Demon Saint has invited this senior dog and senior immortal Jinyuan. Demon Saint actually prepared a banquet. This probably isn't a simple matter. But with such a strong human cultivator and this mysterious senior dog, it would be best if they could be friends with the demon world. It would be too scary if they were enemies. Ghost Emperor said. By the way, is it really okay for us to directly appoint Elder One? Turtle Demon asked. It's no use having an opinion. Although this is unprecedented, it doesn't mean it can't be. An Elder One deserves this special honor. At that moment, Scorpion King slowly said telepathically, if Elder One hadn't convinced me this time, I wouldn't have come at all. In fact, I've always suspected that this senior dog was deliberately stalling for time before Elder One and I arrived. Scorpion King, are you saying that this senior dog has already set everything up for the purpose of bringing our 4 territories back to friendly terms? It's possible. The Yao gods of the 4 regions recalled everything that had happened before and felt a sense of dread when they thought about it. Was this the style of an expert? Controlling all the arrangements in the palm of his hand. As expected of Senior Dog. Previously, the demon gods of the 4 territories had actually wondered if Senior Dog wasn't that powerful, but now it seemed that they had no right to doubt it at all. Well, Your Excellency demon gods, let me interrupt. At that moment, Ghost Emperor's territory envoy, Daoist Witch Demon, suddenly spoke. Ghost Emperor, what is it? According to the comprehensive information received by the other territory envoys, the official mailboxes of the 4 territories have just received a lot of complaints and reports from the flower clans and tree clans. Currently, there are hundreds of thousands of them. Reports? Yes. Daoist Witch Demon nodded. Because Lord Demon Saint and Immortal Jinyuan were wrestling earlier, the power of withering and the power of recovery shifted back and forth, causing the plant system demons to be implicated. The 4 demon gods, clan leader Lu Qi of the Forest Fairy clan said that after he felt himself withering, he thought his lifespan was over, so he lay down in a coffin that had been prepared beforehand. In the end, who knew that the power of recovery would descend and pull at the power of withering? And then the whole clan watched as clan leader Lu Qi sat up in the coffin. Also, apart from this matter, Lord Venerable Ox has to deal with the matter regarding Lord Horseface. Because he violated the Peace Consulate's rules, he was punished by Demon Saint and turned into a pile of demon sand. Horseface died too miserably. Venerable Ox's nose turned sour. Then what about his demon sand? It was still in the Peace Consulate before, but I sent a little ghost to take a look. Daoist Witch Demon said. It might have been because Lord Demon Saint and Senior Immortal Genuine's auras clashed so fiercely that Lord Horseface's ashes were blown away. Venerable Ox's expression was very pained. My girl. She's actually gone. The other demon gods, on the other side, with Elder One leading the way, 2 people and 1 dog turned into 3 streams of light as they swiftly approached the holy pillar. In the distance, Loopy Toad saw an ancient bronze pillar that seemed to prop up the sky appear on the horizon in the distance, like a sea-stabilizing divine needle. Is this the holy pillar? For some reason, Loopy Toad suddenly felt inexplicably excited as it stared at the pillar. Ah! How I want to pee on the holy pillar. Chapter 603. Today, I visited Fudan University's postgraduate teaching team at Wangmin Middle School and Sanha Middle School. They are both young, almost the same age as me, but they have already taken on the responsibility of being teachers. Teaching in the village, the difficulties they have to overcome are much greater than we imagined. Backward key and equipment, differences in education, regional and cultural differences, differences in water and soil, they have all overcome them. This is a group of tough people. P.S. Wangmin Middle School's environment is even more backward than Sanha Middle School. The teaching team leader, Gung Sinyu, is an English teacher, and there are 2 men, Li Lianshua and Yang Jianwei. Because the environment is too difficult, the 3 men were arranged to come here to teach. They have to fetch their own water and go down the mountain to take a bath in the city. However, the most annoying thing is that the bus down the mountain is continuous. There is a bus at 6 o'clock a.m., 6:10 a.m., and 6:15 a.m. In the afternoon, the return bus from the city is at 2 o'clock a.m. and 3 o'clock p.m. It takes 4 hours to go back and forth. Time is too tight, so we can't do much before we have to return to the school. The winding mountain road is full of twists and turns. Kushwan didn't even eat dinner and almost vomited. It's not easy for them to make it through. Salute to the 3 men. Aspiration from the World, Volunteer Literature, the 3rd song of the Central Committee of the Communist Youth League. Lyrics. Kushwan, we aspire from this world, also love to look up at the blue sky, selflessly dedicate the hot blood of youth, unwavering faith, also love to smile at tomorrow, sending the warmest wind out of the horizon, let us shoulder to shoulder, waiting for a beautiful promise. How many times in this life do we have such a rare experience? Connecting each other's hearts. Another year went by. Sprinkling the warmest sunshine on the world, we build our spirit together like the most beautiful sunny day. Chapter 604. Under normal circumstances, Jinyuan would definitely have become suspicious. But the problem was that this was Senior Dog. For a dog like this who had gotten rid of vulgar tastes, there must be a reason for everything it did. Therefore, even if it was flying backward, there must be a reason for it. Besides, wasn't there a cultivator who rode a donkey in the past? In the end, that person really became an immortal. Soon, the 3 streaks of light approached the foot of the sacred pillar. Above the holy pillar, the clouds were indistinct, towering into the clouds and not visible. Previously, when he was far away, he could already feel the power mixed in with the demonic power. Now, it was even more obvious at such a close distance. Although he had roughly guessed what the holy pillar was, it was still just a conjecture. Most of the time, if there was no evidence to prove it. Even Jinyuan didn't dare speak so decisively. Senior Human Dog was still here. If he said the wrong thing, he would lose a lot of face. Jin Yuan stared at Dog 2 with an unreadable expression in his eyes as he tried to guess what on earth Dog 2 was trying to say. For a senior of Senior Dog's realm, every action must have its own reasoning. Perhaps there was a heavenly Tao contained within it? Jin Yuan cupped his chin in his hand, his eyes deep in thought. Could it be that the real reason Senior Dog was flying backward was some kind of hint? Is it related to the Holy Pillar? What does Senior Dog know? But it wasn't good for Jin Yuan to ask about it openly. Most of the time, he still needed to understand it for himself, so he kept it to himself. A man and a dog, along with Elder One, waited at the foot of the Holy Pillar. Not long after, a majestic demonic power surged from the top of the Holy Pillar. But Face looked up and saw an old man in a white Taoist robe descending from the sky with his hands clasped behind his back. This old man had white hair and a ruddy complexion. He had a pair of antlers on his head, but they were of different colors. One was gold, and the other was silver. Elder One had never seen this old man before. But based on his aura alone, Elder One could guess this person's identity. This must be the legendary Saint Master who was in charge of Demon Saint's holy palace and assisted generations of Demon Saints. It was rumored that sacred experts' comprehensive fighting strength wasn't that great, but their perception abilities were extremely heaven-defying. Furthermore, their lifespans were very long. The Demon Saint of the Demon Realm had already been passed down to the second generation. However, from start to finish, there was only one sacred expert. "Greetings, sacred teacher." Elder One bowed respectfully and was about to kneel down when the sacred master stepped forward and helped him up. He stroked his beard and said, "The joint secretaries of the 4 inner domains can dispense with the formalities." "Elder One, you don't have to be so polite." Elder One was flattered. Although this was Elder One's first time serving as the Secretary General, he was familiar with the position requirements and related regulations of the 4 inner domain joint secretariats. "There's such a rule?" Elder One had a shocked expression on his face. "I haven't studied much, Lord Sage Teacher, please don't frame me," the Sage Master laughed in spite of himself. "It's true. On your way here, I've just established this rule with the demonic sage. It won't be long before we announce it to the entire realm." Elder One. There's actually such a thing. Loopy Toad and Jin Yuan were also stunned in their hearts. Directly establishing a new rule was actually possible. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was the significance of this new rule. In front of Yao Saint and Sage Master, all the demons in the Yao realm had to prostrate and kowtow when they saw them. But this rule gave Elder One a special privilege. This meant that in some sense, Elder One's current status was almost on equal footing with the demon gods of the 4 inner domains. And this profound meaning, Elder One himself could naturally think of it. That was why he was so panicked. "That's right, there's also this. This is a gift from Demon Saint." Suddenly, the Sage Master waved his hand, and a light flew out of his sleeve and landed in Elder One's hand. This was a token that looked like it was made of jade. After Elder One saw the words on the token clearly, his eyes widened like 2 copper bells. "This is Demon Saint's token." Dog 2 recognized it at a glance. Generally speaking, only the demon gods of the 4 territories had this kind of treatment. Furthermore, the demon gods of the 4 territories only had one token, which was stored in the central bank of the demon world. This was a necessity for those who went to the foot of the Holy Pillar to seek an audience with Demon Saint and Sage Master. Furthermore, the token also contained a portion of the Holy Pillar's power, which could protect the holder against the immense pressure exerted by the Holy Pillar. Elder One's realm was relatively low to begin with. When he had approached the Holy Pillar earlier, he had felt a strong sense of pressure, and even his breathing had been blocked. Now that he held the token in his hand, he instantly felt the pressure being released from his body, and he felt refreshed. "This. Lord Sage Master, this gift is too generous." Elder One was already incoherent. The significance of this token was too great. If the new demon world law from before had only been a hint, then this token was completely explicit. Elder One was very anxious, but Loopy Toad was overjoyed and praised this second-generation demon god in its heart for being a pretty good demon. With this token, Elder Wen's status in the demon world would rise a lot, and with it, the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan's status as a whole would also rise. In the future, if anyone wanted to make a move against the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan, they would have to think twice about the weight of Elder Wen, the Secretary General. Elder Wen's hands trembled as he held the token. This was the so-called, when a demon achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs rise to heaven. Loopy Toad was sincerely happy. Now, it could indeed let go of the past. With this demon saint token in hand, given Elder Wen's wisdom and strategy, as well as his grandson Wen Yu's outstanding management talent, he would definitely be able to lead the Toad clan to a whole new level. This is what you deserve, just accept it. Sage Master's tone left no room for refusal, and Elder Wen could only accept the order. In just a few short hours, the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan had still been suffering from slander and had been forced to migrate. Now, they had actually received Demon Saint's favor. All of this was like a dream to Elder Wen. Of course, Elder Wen wasn't stupid. He could see that all of this had something to do with this green-furred senior dog. There were too many suspicious points. From the moment Senior Dog had appeared, the originally anxious situation had instantly changed. Had this Senior Dog already foreseen this? That shouldn't be the case. They hadn't known each other at all before. Or could it be, this Senior Dog was? At that moment, Elder Wen suddenly remembered the Toad clan's unique swallowing and spitting spell, which Senior Dog had used earlier, and he instantly had a bold idea. Chapter 605. In the past few days, I've learned a lot from the Ningxia literature collection. I'd like to thank the leaders of the Central Committee of the Communist Youth League for their hard work in leading the team. I'd also like to thank the Yuewen group for providing us with this rare opportunity to collect poems. For this collection, I've composed a total of 5 volunteer literature lyrics. The last one, Annals of Ningxia, is an ancient-style lyric. It will be the closing song for the Yuewen group's Ningxia literature collection group to say goodbye to Ningxia. The lyrics mentioned the teaching teams from various universities, the community social workers, the university students who returned to their hometown to rebuild their hometown, the charity restaurant of love, and so on. Due to the lack of time, we didn't have the time to visit many of the volunteers who were quietly contributing their strength in this world. We only used this song, Annals of Ningxia, to express our deepest respect for this web novelist trip. The first 4 lyrics submitted are, To Live, Nameless Hero, Be Yourself, and Aspire to the World. If any of them is selected and wins an award, Ku Xian will immediately produce the song. Annals of Ningxia, the Central Committee of the Communist Youth League's Volunteer Literature Essay Contest for Ancient-Style Lyrics, Yuewen Group's Ningxia Literature Collection Group Lyrics, Ku Xian main song. That year I left my hometown to teach at the foot of the mountain in the border village. White clouds, green mountains, and blue waters, a cup of tea. The long lamp in the room is still lit, and the sound of reading and revising books and rolling gauze. My son's smile sprouts on his face. That year I returned home, thick soil accompanied by wind and frost like a painting. Some people return to the old land under the stars and the moon. The power of green. Time is like the mountain, and life is like summer flowers. I hope the aspiring young man can show off his youth. There are many stories in this small town, just like the Jianghu. The inn gathers righteous guests to spread kindness all over the world. Chorus. 10 years of reincarnation writes the aspiration extends in all directions. In the coming year the hometown spreads the tales, and the world is full of peaches and plums. Engrave the memory, and turn this love into fireworks. Chapter 606. Loopy Toad hadn't expected Elder Wen to actually make up stories like this. It instantly didn't know how to reply. Given the current situation, it was definitely impossible for them to acknowledge each other. Otherwise, Elder Wen would continue to be embarrassed. So instead of that, it would be better to let Elder Wen continue to misunderstand. After thinking for a bit, Loopy Toad fabricated a reason that could explain itself. It stared at Elder Wen and pretended to muse. It's my disciple. Elder Wen turned pale with fright when he heard this reason. Seeing that Elder Wen had been fooled, Dog 2 continued to fabricate nonsense. Your king really isn't dead. He's the most heroic and handsome disciple I've ever seen. Elder Wen's mouth dropped open. He had never expected this senior dog to speak so highly of the 10th generation. However, its body was indeed destroyed. He's still in the process of reconstructing it. Previously, he sensed in his prophetic dream that the sky-swallowing toad clan was about to suffer a calamity, and he tried to escape me several times to come back here. Elder Wen's heart ached and his eyes turned red. It turned out that he had misunderstood the 10th generation. This old official was wrong to actually say such treasonous things to the 10th generation. Elder Wen lowered his head and sighed as he looked at Loopy Toad. Then may I ask, senior dog, I came here on my own, and I didn't tell him, said Loopy Toad. Then why did you come, senior dog? There's no reason for senior dog to personally take action for us. Indeed, I didn't do anything. The sound isolation spell was transparent, and Loopy Toad turned its gaze to Jinyuan, who was standing outside the spell. Elder One, as for why I came. I'll give you a poem, Loopy Toad said. Loopy Toad said, I mean, when I have nothing to do, when I'm bored, when I want to, I go to a different place. Come here, you can take a look. A different place, a lot, Elder One. At the end of their conversation, Loopy Toad left the soundproof spell barrier, although it didn't acknowledge Elder One in the end. In the end, it didn't acknowledge Elder One, but Dog 2 felt that this might actually be a good ending. Senior Dog, is the conversation over? Sage Master Deerhorn stared at Loopy Toad and bowed. He looked at Elder One, who was sitting cross-legged not far away, pondering the meaning of the poem, and raised his eyebrows meaningfully. Then shall we go now? Sage Master asked. Loopy Toad nodded. Jinyuan, how do we get there? The Sacred Sovereign smiled. If an ordinary person wants to meet the demonic sage, they have to climb the sacred stairs inside the sacred pillar. Of course, there is a second way, and that is for me to personally come down and pick you up. Not Demon Saint? Jinyuan asked. Once you're chosen as a Demon Saint, you're not allowed to leave the peak of the Holy Pillar without permission. You can only move around the Demon Saint's holy palace. So miserable, Jinyuan and Loopy Toad broke out in a sweat. Loopy Toad now finally understood why so few of the demon gods and demon kings in the demon world had ever seen Demon Saint's true face. It turned out that Demon Saint simply couldn't come down. Now that it knew the truth, Loopy Toad suddenly felt that Demon Saint was a little pitiful. He wondered if the demon gods of the demon realm would give up searching for a way to become a demon saint if they knew that they would lose their freedom after becoming a demon saint. Sometimes, the meaning of freedom was greater than anything else. No matter how powerful one was, they would lose their freedom. Anyone would think carefully before making such a choice. No matter how good-looking you are, you're the only one in the world. What's the use? That's right, what's your name? Jinyuan looked at the Deerhorn's Sacred Sovereign. I'm Shenwuyue, seniors can also call me Little Shen. The Deerhorn's Sacred Sovereign said, then let's set off now. Teleporting directly to the top of the sacred pillar requires a magic artifact, but only I can use it. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan wanted to ask what the magic artifact was, but before they could say anything, they saw the Deerhorn's Sacred Sovereign pluck out his own antlers. Loopy Toad, Jinyuan, is this fake? Holding the golden antlers in one hand and the silver antlers in the other, Shenwuyue shook his head with a smile on his face. No, this is real. Then, Loopy Toad and Jinyuan heard a crisp, piu sound, and blood sprayed out like a fountain from where the antlers had been plucked. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, this was quite a lot of blood. This reminded Dog 2 of a movie called Kill Bill. Shenwuyue then merged the golden and silver antlers together. The moment the two antlers came together, a dazzling light was released to form a teleportation magic ring in front of Shenwuyue. Shenwuyue tossed the antlers aside and made an inviting gesture at the magic ring. Seniors, please come in. Jinyuan was startled when he saw the antlers that had been tossed aside. You don't want your antlers anymore? Teleporting to the top of the sacred pillar requires a lot of magic energy, so I usually store my demon energy in the antlers beforehand. Usually, I'll use the teleportation magic once and that's the limit. Blood spurted out of Shenwuyue's head as he smiled. But it's fine. In any case, the antlers will grow back the next day. Lupi Toad and Jinyuan, Shenwuyue, this old man was a little strange. Shenwuyue, it's just that before it grows back, it'll keep bleeding, and it won't stop. Lupi Toad and Jinyuan were stunned. Are you sure you won't die? After entering the teleportation magic circle, Lupi Toad and Jinyuan very quickly arrived at the top of the sacred pillar. Throughout the entire process, Lupi Toad completely avoided eye contact with the sacred pillar, otherwise it would find that it couldn't suppress the primordial power in its crotch at all. When Dog 2 appeared at the top of the sacred pillar, the strange feeling of wanting to pee disappeared. Dog 2 looked at the place it had once fantasized about setting foot in one day, but was a little disappointed in the end. That was because the top of the sacred pillar was really too small. It was a circular square that could be seen as far as the eye could see. Demon Saint's holy palace was in the middle of the square, and looked unremarkable, like an old church. The glass on all sides was colored glass, which gave off a colorful light. It could be said that whether it was the top of the sacred pillar or Demon Saint's holy palace, both were very different from what Lupi Toad had imagined. Furthermore, in this sesame-sized square, Demon Saint actually had restrictions on its freedom. Lupi Toad instantly felt that being Demon Saint was a pretty miserable thing. It was said that Demon Saint's power was inherited, and it didn't matter how bad one's talent was as long as one was chosen. But now that it saw the disparity in reality, Lupi Toad felt that it would rather not have this kind of power, basking in the sun in the courtyard, going out to buy groceries with Mother Wang, swindling some money from Little Silver, acting cute with Little Master Ling. When it had nothing to do, it could also lift Sheep's skirt and tease Jinka in passing. How interesting was that? Chapter 607. How is it? The top of the holy pillar isn't as vast as you think, right? Shenwuyue walked over from behind. His head was still bleeding profusely, and it didn't look like it was going to stop at all. Jinyuan raised his eyebrows. Is Lord Shen sure you don't need to stop the bleeding? As I said before, I'll keep bleeding until the antlers grow back. It's no use whether I block it or apply medicine. Shenwuyue smiled. Senior Immortal Jinyuan, you don't have to worry too much about me. My self-healing ability is also very strong. Losing blood while making blood is actually the same as exchanging blood. I think it's pretty healthy. Jinyuan, Lupi Toad, what if *** King healthy? Lupi Toad looked around in disappointment and deliberately put on an old-fashioned expression. I never thought the Grand Demon Saint would actually have such a small space. This is a rule set by first-generation Demon Saint. Everyone sleeps in a bed and dies in a box. There's no need for such a large space at all. First-generation Demon Saint was more concerned about the proper use of space, Shenwuyue replied. Shenwuyue answered. Blood had already flowed down his white robe, gradually soaking it and turning it from white to red. Doesn't the successor Demon Saint have the right to change it? The former Demon Saint's rules can only last for 2 generations at most. If second-generation Demon Saint sets any rules now, the third and fourth generations don't have the right to change them. Only the 5th-generation Demon Saint has the right, Shenwuyue answered. I see. Dog 2 nodded. At that moment, its and Jinyuan's expressions changed slightly as they sensed that someone was coming. A very powerful aura came out of Demon Saint's holy palace in front of them. It was a blue-skinned humanoid demon, also known as a transvestite. This transvestite held a scepter in his hand, and the fish scales on his azure skin glowed brilliantly. Just from this aura, Dog 2 and Jinyuan had already guessed who this person was. As expected of second-generation Demon Saint, your aura is indeed much more powerful than your virtual body. Immortal Jinyuan smiled slightly. Of course, this was just a polite remark. In his mind, the strongest person would always be his senior dog. Likewise. Second-generation Demon Saint curled the corners of his mouth, then stepped aside to make way for them. Seniors, welcome to the Holy Palace. This was Lupi Toad's first time seeing Demon Saint, and to be honest, this image was really too different from what it had imagined. Not only did he have blue skin, he also had scales on his body. So second-generation demon saint's original form was a tropical ornamental fish? Seeing that, Senior Dog was in a daze, Jinyuan asked with great concern, "What's wrong, Senior Dog?" "I'm fine." Dog 2 shook its head and said in a low voice, "I was just wondering why the second-generation demon saint's color was so strange." Jinyuan, second-generation demon saint and sage master Shenwuyue were startled. A dog with such a strange color actually had the nerve to talk about others. Just as Butt-Face had expected, the demon saint's holy palace didn't use any spells that could expand space, perfectly implementing the first demon saint's concept of space. The banquet had already been set up in the holy palace, which wasn't too big. After everyone took their seats, Dog 2 saw 2 girls in maid outfits walk out from behind the curtains of the main hall of the holy palace. Jinyuan's eyes lit up. "You have other people here? They're just puppets made from demon earth and don't have their own consciousness. Although the holy palace is small, we still need some people to order around." Shenwuyue smiled. "There are 10 puppets like this in the holy palace, and they're all very exquisite. They were all personally made by second-generation demon saint, and there are all kinds of them. Mature women, Lolas, mature women, young married women. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, second-generation demon saint. Before I became demon saint, I actually made puppets for a living." Shenwuyue was blank. "Don't you sing Allegro?" "Second-generation demon saint, that's what I did before I made puppets." Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, just from this simple conversation, Loopy Toad and Jinyuan could already guess that this sage master Shenwuyue definitely liked to tear down second-generation demon saint's stage. This inevitably made Loopy Toad and Jinyuan sympathize with second-generation demon saint even more. In the end, before their sympathy was over, Shenwuyue started to tear down the stage again. "Seniors, I have something very interesting to tell you." Shenwuyue looked at Loopy Toad and Jinyuan with a comical expression. Second-generation demon saint was so excited when he made them back then. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan. At that moment, Loopy Toad turned its gaze to second-generation demon saint. For some reason, it felt that there was something wrong with second-generation demon saint's expression, as if he was very sad. "Jinyuan, what's wrong with demon saint?" "Nothing." Shenwuyue shook his head. "Maybe he's lost in the pain of making puppets back then." "Didn't you say that demon saint was very excited?" Jinyuan thought it was very strange. He was very excited before, but when second-generation demon saint realized that these puppets were cold from head to toe after they were formed, he couldn't get excited at all. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, when they heard the word cold, Loopy Toad and Jinyuan's sympathy for demon saint was almost full. As a demon saint, first of all, his freedom was restricted by the Holy Pillar's restriction, and then he was trapped by first-generation space restriction rule. As a result, demon saint's holy pillar didn't have the slightest bit of grandeur from the square to the holy palace. In the end, the sage master next to him had to tear him down every day. Loopy Toad felt that the most pitiful thing was still the puppets. Judging from the finesse of these puppets made from demon earth, whether it was their facial features or each strand of hair or even each part that should be plump, second-generation demon saint had obviously carried out very precise arrangements and calculations in order to make these puppets look realistic enough. As a demon saint who had already lost his freedom and grandeur, it actually wasn't so bad to have so many puppets to keep him company. But in the end, second-generation demon saint had no choice but to admit a tragic fact, and that was that after these puppets were enlightened, they were cold, they couldn't be used at all. "I've already taken off my pants, and this is what you show me?" At this thought, whether it was Loopy Toad or Jinyuan, they already felt sympathy for demon saint. Chapter 608. Loopy Toad had always thought that demon saint was a weirdo, but it had never expected Shenwuyue, this old man, to be even weirder. Logically speaking, there was no freedom or space here, and his assistant officer could come and undermine him at any time. Loopy Toad felt that it would go crazy if it stayed here any longer, not to mention the restrictions of the Holy Pillar. The demon saint that was trapped here. "Seniors, please sit down." Unlike second-generation demon saint's expression, Shenhuiue smiled like an idiot, and his grin was even more brilliant than a lotus flower. Blood continued to gush out of his head. Then Shenhuiue waved his hand. Hey! Same rules, Thunder Mother and Ramu, bring the things over. Right after that, Loopy Toad saw two little Lolitas carrying large basins come to Shenhuiue's sides and start to use them to collect the blood gushing out of Shenhuiue's head. Loopy Toad, Zhenyuan, furthermore, these two basins weren't ordinary basins. Although Shenhuiue's blood continued to pour into the basins, it didn't overflow. Shenhuiue smiled. I've made quite a few basins like this to deal with situations like this. Every time I have to use a big spell, I have to remove the antlers and activate the energy stored inside. It doesn't hurt much, but it's quite troublesome. So, Senior Dog and Senior Immortal Zhenyuan, do you know why I'm usually unwilling to go down to receive people? Loopy Toad, Zhenyuan, a lot of blood was one thing, but the main thing this old man Shenhuiue was that he was afraid of trouble. So under normal circumstances, if he wasn't receiving an important guest, Shenhuiue absolutely wouldn't remove the antlers so easily. On the other side, the two little puppet maids were expressionless as they held the basins very easily to collect Shenhuiue's blood. It was obvious that they were already very used to it. Zhenyuan found it very strange as he looked at Shenhuiue and asked, "What do you plan to do with this blood after collecting it?" Shenhuiue, isn't that simple? Sell it to the hot pot restaurant. Loopy Toad and Zhenyuan, my blood isn't as valuable as Lord Demon Saint's, but it's still dear blood. Palpitations, insomnia, and backache can all be treated. Speaking up to here, Shenhuiue said with a slightly reminiscing expression, actually, when the first-generation demon saint had just succeeded back then, the first-generation demon saint didn't take over. Our sacred palace is often short of funds. That's why I often sell dear blood to raise funds for our holy palace's activities. Of course, I was forced. Forced? Yeah. The first-generation demon saint was very Buddhist. Not only did he limit the size of the holy palace, but he also often helped the poor demon citizens. The taxes collected by our sacred palace were all used to build the Western region. Aren't there still plans for the Western region these days? It was proposed by the first generation. As long as one's academic results were good enough and had the standard of a postgraduate student, they could apply. Last year, we received a total of more than 2,000 demon monarchs. Zhenyuan raised an eyebrow. Demon King? Yeah. If he wasn't a demon king, his diploma wasn't enough. Generally, only those who had reached the demon king realm could obtain a postgraduate diploma. Furthermore, not everyone could participate in the Western plan. There's a total of 6 rounds of interviews, which means killing a large number of demon kings, Shenhuiue said. Zhenyuan, then what are the benefits of participating in this plan? In addition to developing the demon world and contributing to it, we have an evaluation form for these demon kings who successfully go to the west to support the construction. Their tribe points can be increased based on their contribution. Shenhuiue smiled. Although the demon race's outer territories are divided into 96 territories, they are also ranked. Every 5 years, the top 3 tribes in the outer territories will be compared with the bottom 3 tribes in the central territory, and the tribe with the strongest overall strength will be promoted to the central territory. Hearing this, Loopy Toad was suddenly enlightened. Because it hadn't been on the throne for long when it had been in the sky-swallowing Toad clan, it didn't understand this situation at all. Listening to Shenhuiue now, it understood. It turned out that tribes could also be upgraded. Loopy Toad noticed that when Shenhuiue said this, second-generation demon saint's expression was one of deep bitterness and hatred. As if someone owed him millions. Then, Loopy Toad heard Shenhuiue continue, actually, His Excellency second-generation demon saint was one of the volunteers for the construction of the Western region back then. Furthermore, he took a Didi Shun Feng demon car over, and was raped on the way. Loopy Toad's and Zhenyuan's hearts couldn't take it anymore. Wait? Rape? This pervert's taste was so heavy. And then? Although second-generation demon saint was still a weak chicken at that time, it was a piece of cake for him to deal with a rapist. He directly castrated him. Back to business. There have actually always been plans for the construction of the Western region, not just in the demon world, but also in the human cultivation world. Shenhuiyue paused for a moment, then said, "The reason why we're talking about the construction of the human cultivation world and the demon world is because..." Actually, the most important reason is related to the topic we're discussing this time. When Shenhuiyue said this, Loopy Toad and Jinyuan knew that the real point was coming. Although blood was still spurting out of Shenhuiyue's head, his expression was completely different from before. He suddenly became serious. What I'm going to talk about next has to do with the sustainable development of the human cultivation world and the demon world. I hope seniors can listen carefully. Loopy Toad raised its eyes. Tell me about it. Shenhuiyue looked at second-generation demon saint, who then said, "It's like this, senior dog, senior immortal Jinyuan. Not long ago, Sage Master and I discovered a space fisher in the demon world." At the mention of the space fisher, immortal Jinyuan's expression changed slightly. Because he was in fact the one who had caused so many space fishers in the demon world all these years. Before he had created the gate between worlds, the spatial structure of the demon world had actually been very stable, and it was impossible for space fishers to appear at all. Second-generation demon saint, seniors, you definitely know that ever since a goddamn human cultivator created the gate between worlds, the spatial structure of our demon world has been messed up. A few fissures appear every now and then. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, what was the furthest distance between people? At that very moment, a goddamn person was sitting in front of you, but you didn't know it at all. Although he felt a little guilty, Jinyuan's acting skills weren't for show. He did his best to remain calm and didn't notice anything unusual at all. What's so special about these new space fishers? Jinyuan asked. That's what I want to say. Sage Master and I previously thought that they were new fishers because of fluctuations from the gate between worlds. But according to our investigation, we realized that these space fishers weren't formed because of the gate between worlds. Not because of the gate between worlds? Yes. Chapter 609. Demon Saint's title was very interesting to Jinyuan. Monster? What's that? Aren't you a monster yourself? Second-generation demon saint found himself unexpectedly speechless. Of course, Jinyuan was just joking. What on earth was this thing that demon saint of the demon world called a monster? Jinyuan was a little curious. First of all, it couldn't be an ordinary demon beast, spirit beast or devil beast, otherwise demon saint wouldn't have called it a monster. At the mention of this monster, the expressions on both second-generation demon saint and sage master Shenhuiyue's faces changed slightly to show lingering fear. At the same time, Dog 2's curiosity was piqued. After all, the two people standing here right now were the two most powerful existences in the demon world. One was the current demon saint and the other was Sage Master's assistant. If it was just an ordinary creature, it would be impossible for them to feel fear at all. Although second-generation demon saint wasn't the strongest demon saint of all time, after merging with the consciousness of the holy pillar of the demon world, his current true immortal strength could rival that of a venerated immortal. With the willpower of an entire world in hand, there were actually very few things that could make someone at demon saint's realm afraid. Dog 2 gazed at second-generation demon saint and Shenhuiyue. I want to know what on earth this monster is. I'm afraid it's very difficult to explain this monster with words alone. I invited Senior Dog and Senior Immortal Jinyuan here this time in the hope that both seniors can help us take a look at what this monster is. Second-generation demon saint said. How? The corners of Jinyuan's lips curled up slightly, revealing his canine teeth, and he was a little curious. We already killed it. Suddenly, Jinyuan felt a little disappointed. What? How did it die just like that? Didn't you say it was a monster? At that moment, second-generation demon saint suddenly untied his robe to reveal his chest, which gleamed with fish scales. Dog 2's eyes were almost blinded, Zhen Yuan hurriedly covered his eyes. Second generation demon saint, please reconsider, I don't have this kind of hobby. Second generation demon saint, senior, you misunderstand. Please open your eyes and look at the wound on my chest, it was caused by that monster. Ancestor Zhen Yuan loosened his grip and looked at second generation demon saint's chest with loopy toad's eyes. Second generation demon saint's chest and right shoulder actually had countless hideous teeth marks. The monster had at least a few hundred teeth. How long has this wound been there? Buttface asked curiously. It's already been half a month. The sacred master and I have tried everything we can, but we're still unable to heal this wound, an unrecoverable wound? Immortal Zhen Yuan sucked in a breath. If this was the case, then the problem was much more complicated than he had imagined. The true immortal realm was completely different from the other realms, because the true immortal realm's spiritual power had a very powerful regenerative property. In battle, as long as it was a wound on the skin, it would quickly recover. Loopy Toad was naturally aware of this. In this world, there were many magic treasures or spells with the attribute of serious damage, which could prevent wounds from healing. But the point was that the person whose wound couldn't be healed was second-generation demon saint. Second-generation demon saint's current realm. Loopy Toad could only think of these two ways to inflict irreparable wounds on second-generation demon saint's body. Furthermore, to Loopy Toad's current limited knowledge, this was indeed the strongest method that could effectively block rapid recovery. The first method was Little Silver Spit. The other was Little Master Ling's primordial chi, but it was clear that Demon Saint's wound hadn't been caused by Little Silver or Little Master Ling. Loopy Toad's interest was instantly piqued. What about the monster's body? Let me take a look. It already had a guess in its heart, but didn't dare make any careless assertions. It needed to confirm it with its own eyes before it could believe it. In fact, Loopy Toad felt that Zhen Yuan should have also sensed it. After that, Shen Wuye clapped his hands, and two puppets with very beautiful figures but very cold bodies carefully carried a crystal tank into the main hall. This tank couldn't be considered too big, its mouth only had a radius of 1 meter, but it weighed 10,000 tons, and it was sealed with a fairly thick membrane. Half a month ago, after second-generation Demon Saint and Shen Wuye had gotten rid of this monster, they had thrown its body into this crystal tank and sealed it. This crystal tank was first-generation Demon Saint's bathtub, and it's made of a very special material. At that time, we turned Demon Saint's holy palace upside down, but really couldn't find a magic artifact more suitable for sealing this monster's body, said Shen Wuye. Even though it had already been half a month, Shen Wuye was still a little frightened when he recalled the scene of the monster's appearance. Everyone gathered around this crystal tank, and second-generation Demon Saint began to recall what had happened half a month ago. Half a month ago, Sage Master and I discovered an abnormal space fissure. I used magic to move it into the holy temple, intending to mend it, but I never thought that a monster would actually jump out of it. How was the monster killed later? Before looking at the monster's body, Zhen Yuan wanted to get to the bottom of this first. At that time, I was ambushed by this monster and was already injured. Sage Master and I then joined forces, but who would have thought that this monster would be extremely tough and difficult to deal with? Second-generation Demon Saint said, in the end, Sage Master and I joined hands to pray and summon the holy pillar to forcibly kill it. Speaking up to this point, Shen Wuye also sighed. Summoning the holy pillar to forcibly kill it is actually very damaging to Lord Demon Saint's lifespan. Furthermore, each generation of Demon Saint can only use it 3 times at most. Dog 2 and Zhen Yuan nodded. 1 man and 1 dog had already come to a conclusion in their hearts. If this monster was really as terrifying as second-generation Demon Saint said, it should indeed attract the attention of both the demon world and the human world, since the demon planet and Earth were currently connected through the gate between worlds. Since this kind of abnormal and unknown fissure which could produce monsters could appear in the demon world, it was also possible that it could appear in the human world. Let's look at the monster first. Loopy Toad narrowed its eyes. Shen Wuye nodded and raised his hand to remove the seal around the crystal tank. Loopy Toad floated in the air and looked inside the tank with Zhen Yuan. Then, they saw a 1-meter-long black fish with a mouth full of sharp teeth inside the crystal tank. Is this a catfish? Loopy Toad was cursing in its heart when it heard Jin Yuan exclaim, a Kuan? What the hell? Who made a mistake in refining this multi-fanged Kuan? Loopy Toad, second-generation demon saint. Chapter 610. Looking at the carcass of this already dead multi-fanged Kuan, it was just a seedling in its development period. Even so, the multi-fanged Kuan was already very lethal. It had actually been able to leap out of space and injure Demon Saint, forcing Demon Saint and Sage Master to use the power of the Holy Pillar to annihilate it. It sounded a little outrageous, but it was the truth. Senior Immortal Jin Yuan is saying that this is a Kuan? Second-generation Demon Saint and Shen Weiyue turned pale with fright. They had never seen a Kuan before, because it was an extinct prehistoric creature that had gone through several great eras before suddenly disappearing en masse, not even leaving a corpse behind. After that, these prehistoric creatures were declared extinct. At that time, it wasn't just the Kuan, but also the Qilin, Phoenix, Dragon, and other prehistoric creatures. It was just that the Kuan had been the first to go extinct. There were many types of Kuan, and the multi-fanged Kuan was just one of them, known for its powerful physical lethality. Furthermore, the biggest characteristic of these prehistoric creatures was that the energy sources in their bodies were very diverse and could change according to their environment. After the seal was removed, Dog 2 saw that Jin Yuan had already activated his immortal eye, and impatiently used his power of sight to examine this multi-fanged Kuan. Even without that abnormal space crack, the fact that a prehistoric creature at the level of the multi-fanged Kuan could actually reappear was already shocking enough. This is a Kuan, and a baby multi-fanged Kuan at that. Immortal Jin Yuan frowned. He emphasized the word baby, because this was enough to prove that this multi-fanged Kuan hadn't been born for very long. Or to think about it from another perspective. Perhaps in a certain corner of the universe, these extinct primordial creatures had most likely built a home. Actually, no matter what the truth was, the appearance of this multi-fanged Kuan was a big discovery. Thinking this, Jin Yuan couldn't help turning to look at Loopy Toad. Senior Dog should have sensed it as well, right? Loopy Toad knew that Jin Yuan was referring to this multi-fanged Kuan's energy source. Loopy Toad couldn't be more familiar with this energy source, and it was certain that it wasn't wrong. The smell of this energy source was exactly the same as the primordial chi it had sensed from Little Master Ling. This was also the main reason why Monster Saint could not recover for a while after being attacked. The lethality of the origin of chi was very strong. It was far from enough to simply use monster power and spiritual power to repair the cells. Primordial chi wasn't unique to Wang Ling. He had confirmed it with Immortal Jin Yuan before, and it turned out that after a cultivator reached venerated immortal level, they could indeed activate primordial chi as a second source apart from spirit energy. However, this second energy source was quite limited in the body of an immortal venerable. Things have really become troublesome, but Face looked at the carcass of the baby multi-fanged Kuan and sniffed it carefully. He felt that there was something else mixed on this multi-fanged Kuan's body. He ordered Jin Yuan to turn the multi-fanged Kuan over, and then his eyes abruptly focused on its belly. There's something here. Immortal Jin Yuan focused his immortal eye on it, and was immediately startled. There really is something. As expected of Senior Dog. This was truly awesome. In fact, Dog 2 hadn't seen anything. The reason why it had felt that there was something was purely based on its sense of smell and intuition. What is it? Second-generation Demon Saint asked. He and Shen Weiyue had already examined the multi-fanged Kuan's carcass inside out many times, but hadn't found anything out of the ordinary. There's a thread there, 3 inches below the belly, Immortal Jin Yuan said. Thread? Second-generation Demon Saint and Shen Weiyue also started to use their powers of sight to search carefully. Their powers definitely weren't as strong as Jin Yuan's, but with Jin Yuan's directions, sure enough, they saw a floating thread. This thread was as thin as a gossamer and was translucent. Furthermore, the end of the thread had already been pulled off, and it was impossible to detect at all if one didn't look carefully. Loopy Toad had felt that the other sense on this multi-fanged Kuan had come from this thread. Does Senior Dog think of anything? Everyone stared at the thread in deep thought. Dog 2 suddenly thought of something very frightening. I'm thinking, could this thread be a fishing line? Everyone's expressions changed at this guess. Fishing line? Senior Dog, do you mean, this baby multi-fanged Kuan is just bait? Someone deliberately connected the fishing line to this multi-fanged Kuan and used the space to fish? Second generation demon saint said. This was just a theory, but looking at the current results, it wasn't impossible. If this was really the case, then this already wasn't as simple as fishing, but was using this method to kill someone. The crux of the problem was the identity and purpose of this angler. This was an unknown enemy, and they currently had no information on this unknown enemy at all. Where on earth had this multi-fanged Kuan come from, where had it been raised in captivity, and so on? They currently didn't have clear answers to a series of questions. But if it really had been raised in captivity, then the identity of this mysterious angler was very frightening. Furthermore, a Kuan was just a type of prehistoric vicious beast. Who knew if the people who raised these vicious beasts were also raising other monsters? If Senior Dog deals with this angler, what are your chances of winning? Immortal Jinyuan asked. Loopy Toad, probably. Chapter 6:11. Loopy Toad realized that the situation seemed to have spiraled out of its control. If it really had to take action later, its identity would definitely be exposed. Dog 2 wanted to cry but had no tears. If it had known earlier, it wouldn't have come up. Looking at Loopy Toad's conflicted expression, Jinyuan already knew that this enemy wouldn't be easy to deal with. This was Senior Dog. How strong was an enemy that could make Senior Dog frown? Thus, when Jinyuan saw Senior Dog frown, he knew that things weren't simple. Can you find out the origin of this Kuan space? Jinyuan asked as he looked at Shenwuyue. He knew that Shenwuyue's perception was very strong, and surpassed that of ordinary human cultivators and even demon saint. This was also one of Shenwuyue's specialties. He was proficient in perception and deduction. But it was very clear that even Shenwuyue found the origin of this Kuan extremely troublesome. He sighed. After this multi-fanged Kuan was annihilated by the power of the Holy Pillar, I already started to investigate, but it'll take 3 to 5 days for the results to come out. The search range is really too wide, and my perception can't pinpoint its exact location. I can only roughly know which district it's from outside the Milky Way. Is that so? Jinyuan cupped his chin in his hand and frowned. Actually, even if he could find out which district it was from, it wouldn't be very meaningful. There were hundreds of millions of different planets in one district outside the Milky Way. How long would it take to search? Even if he had already shortened the search range, this was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. The Milky Way outside the Milky Way was too big. Although true immortals had the ability to travel outside the Milky Way, no true immortal dared go too far. Everyone knew this in their hearts. Back then, immortal Jinyuan had wandered outside the Milky Way for 1,000 years, but hadn't even covered 1/10 of the distance. If a true immortal had to travel for 1,000 years, given the extreme lack of spirit chi of heaven and earth, it would already be too much for him to handle after a few hundred years. If he really had to wander around outside the Milky Way, it was useless even if you bought a universal insurance policy. As long as a family member didn't issue a death certificate, the body would slowly turn into dust in the universe. In any case, Loopy Toad already felt that it couldn't handle this matter on its own. It needed Little Master Ling to take action. If this matter was not taken seriously, it might really cause a great calamity in the future. It was very likely that this angler was rearing a large number of extinct primordial beasts. Although he didn't know the true identity of this angler, whether he was a human, a demon, or an extraterrestrial being from the Milky Way, it was obvious that this angler was not easy to deal with. This was because the primordial ferocious beasts under this person's command all used primordial true chi as their main energy source. Just this point alone was enough to make most of the cultivators in the human world suffer. After all, Little Master Ling's slap back then had only contained a bit of primordial chi, but Evil Sword God had been beaten so badly that even his own mother wouldn't have been able to recognize him. Now, all of these primordial vicious beasts were using origin true chi as their main energy source. One could imagine just how lethal they were. Second-generation demon saint and Shenhuiyue called these prehistoric vicious beasts monsters, which Loopy Toad thought was quite appropriate. It looks like Senior Dog is very confident. Shenhuiyue looked at Loopy Toad and asked. Loopy Toad feigned a profound nod. As if, Loopy Toad, I'll think of a way to find that angler, but I need to go back and look up some information first. I'll have to ask Little Master Ling about this first. That's good. Second-generation demon saint and Shenhuiyue nodded. Although they had never seen this Senior Dog, who could casually cast a level 13 spell like Immortal Jinyuan had said, since it was a great senior whom Immortal Jinyuan had acknowledged, second-generation demon saint and Shenhuiyue could only trust it now. However, this matter wasn't over yet, because they didn't know what this angler's objective was. Whether releasing such a primordial vicious beast was to hunt or to test the waters before the invasion, no one knew. In the face of this kind of unknown enemy, it was one thing not to act rashly, but one also had to be vigilant. If this mysterious angler invaded with a large number of prehistoric vicious beasts, neither the demon world nor the human world would be able to escape. At that time, it would be a huge catastrophe. So in this situation, Loopy Toad could only find an excuse to slip away first. Loopy Toad's train of thought was very clear. It had to look for Little Master Ling. Blood was still gushing out of Shenhuiyue's head, but his thoughts were pretty clear. He took out 2 golden talismans from his lapel and gave them to Immortal Jinyuan and Loopy Toad. Senior Dog, Senior Immortal Jinyuan, these are the golden talismans of my Demon Saint's holy palace. If there's anything you want to know, you can come to my Demon Saint's holy palace through this golden talisman at any time. This golden talisman also has the ability to send messages. If I find any clues here, I'll inform you right away. There's actually something like this. Immortal Jinyuan took the Demon Saint golden talisman and looked it up and down curiously. He sensed it and found the aura of the holy pillar inside. Was this made with the power of the holy pillar? That's right, second-generation Demon Saint quickly replied. Furthermore, only Demon Saint can make talismans. This Demon Saint golden talisman is equivalent to a pass to the demon world. As long as you 2 seniors want to come, you can come at any time, and the first destination is Demon Saint's holy palace. But with this golden talisman, you can go to any corner of the demon world at will. Seeing the golden talisman is the same as seeing Demon Saint himself. All demon beasts, including demon kings and demon gods, have to respect it, otherwise they'll be punished by the restriction. Speaking up to this point, second-generation Demon Saint sighed. In fact, a long time ago, first-generation Demon Saint planned to mass-produce the golden talismans and send them to the human cultivation world to establish diplomatic relations with the heads of state of various countries. Our demon world has always wanted to establish a peaceful relationship with the human cultivation world. If it had been fixed earlier, we would have been able to come up with a plan together when we run into difficulties like today. Unfortunately, this plan was later cancelled. Jinyuan, why was it cancelled? Second-generation Demon Saint, wasn't it because some damn person created the gate between worlds and directly connected to the demon world? Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, second-generation Demon Saint, not only did this gate between worlds disrupt our original plan, it also destroyed the spatial order of our demon world. Our few demon world diplomats just wanted to go out and take a look, but in the end, they were beaten up and had to scurry back like rats. Second-generation Demon Saint spoke with great bitterness and deep hatred, and even Shenhuiyue's face was full of helplessness. I've searched for a lot of information all these years, but I haven't been able to find out who the creator of the gate between worlds was. There are also rumors that you, Senior Immortal Jinyuan, created the gate between worlds. The corners of Jinyuan's mouth twitched. Me? How could it be me? I'm so kind, that's right. How could it be Senior Immortal Jinyuan? Senior is so kind. Shenhuiyue shrugged and said, but it doesn't matter, I actually cursed this creator before. Jinyuan, curse? Shenhuiyue, I cursed him to be haunted by a mental demon. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, after the meal at Demon Saint's holy palace, second-generation demon saint and Shenhui's saw Loopy Toad and immortal Zhenyuan out of the palace. Blood was still gushing out of Shenhui's head, and the lowly maidservants on either side of him who were holding basins to catch the blood. Before leaving, Loopy Toad couldn't help turning its head to ask, "Can I ask you something?" Second-generation demon saint, Senior now has Demon Saint's golden talisman, so you're an honored guest of our demon world. You can ask anything you want. Loopy Toad, what's Demon Saint's inheritance mechanism? This was what Loopy Toad had always wanted to know, and Zhenyuan also had a curious expression on his face when he heard this. Second-generation Demon Saint, the inheritance mechanism was set by first-generation Demon Saint, but it's a little strange. It's not based on strength or talent. Loopy Toad, based on what? Second-generation Demon Saint, you just have to pee on the holy pillar. Zhenyuan, Loopy Toad. Chapter 6:12. Sending a text message for help was the only way Audiobook could think of at the moment. Since the other party had the intention to track them down for revenge, this proved that they weren't weak, and there had never been any room for negotiation with this group of vicious criminals. The truth was that Audiobook had been on guard against this ever since he had taken up the position of the general administration of 100 schools. General Ian's secretary Dakang had looked for him before, wanting to send experts to protect him, but he had tactfully refused. These were two pawns from the top, and there was no guarantee that they wouldn't investigate him. If they found out that it was his Shifu Wang Ling, it would be game over. Audiobook knew that his Shifu liked to keep a low profile, so he had refused the expert's request to protect him from the start. General Ian's secretary Dakang had initially taken a very tough stance in this regard, but in the end, Audiobook had no choice but to ask Wang Ling for help. What else could Wang Ling do? Naturally, he had looked for Father Wang, but Father Wang had only left a message, and the higher-ups had instantly fallen silent. As for Audiobook's safety, he actually didn't need to worry at all. In a situation like this, he could send a text message for help. Actually, Audiobook had already stored several of these SOS messages in his phone. He had even considered the possibility that the pursuer might be carrying a signal blocker on him, which would prevent him from calling for help. Audiobook had even been equipped with a small signal transmitter, which was an independent signal base station which he had set up in the family apartment. Through this small signal transmitter, he could remotely control the signal base station to send out a distress signal. But since he could send text messages normally now, there was actually no need to use this kind of recording device. The driver parked the car in an empty spot in a suburban park that had yet to be developed and was sparsely populated. When Audiobook and Zhong Lang got out of the car, they sensed a strong murderous aura coming from the van. Sure enough, the people inside didn't have good intentions. When the van door opened, a gloomy-looking cultivator appeared in front of Audiobook and Zhong Lang. However, this person was dressed differently from a normal cultivator, and looked a little like the islanders on Sun Island. Audiobook judged that this person was probably a cultivator who had returned from studying ninjutsu on Sun Island. Nowadays, cultivating both ninjutsu and cultivation arts was a trend, and there were already more and more ninjutsu whose energy structure had already been converted to spirit energy. Audiobook didn't find it strange at all that this kind of dual cultivator had appeared in the Demon Hunters Association, since they already had a lot of evidence of the Demon Hunters Association colluding with foreign dark forces. They had been tracking down the remaining higher-ups of the Demon Hunters Association. Now that this person had appeared, Audiobook instantly understood. A considerable portion of the Demon Hunters Association's upper echelons had been sent abroad to further their studies. That was why there had been no news in the country. This group of higher-ups was the true core of the Demon Hunters Association. As for the higher-ups in the country, including elders Wu Wu, it was likely that President Bai had never truly used them as a core force from the very beginning. You're finally willing to get off. The gloomy young man stared at them. I'm under orders from Elder Ji Xing of the Demon Hunters Association to ask you to come with us. You've studied abroad, right? You shouldn't be the only one in the Demon Hunters Association. Didn't that Elder Ji Xing also come back from studying abroad? Audiobook asked. Are you trying to get information out of me? There's no harm in telling you. In any case, you'll be dead tomorrow. The gloomy young man smiled. This time, we've been summoned by Elder Ji Xing to gather here from abroad. Today was supposed to be the day of your death, but because of some small problems in the organization, we'll officially take action tomorrow. Official action? Zhuo frowned. Judging from this young man's tone, the other party didn't intend to kill him yet, and just wanted to capture him and kill him tomorrow. Taking into account the crazy actions of foreign dark forces in the last few years, Zhuo already seemed to have some idea of the other party's objective. This Demon Hunters Association probably wanted to capture him and Zhonglang, and then find a suitable place to publicly execute them tomorrow. Zhuo also had his own speculations about this place. It was either at the General Administration of 100 Schools or at number 60 High. This was truly a terrifying group of thugs. Zhuo's heart was still a little shaken. This was just the Demon Hunters Association. As a small organization under the umbrella of the Foreign Dark Force Night Chief, it actually had so much power and so many expert dual cultivation warriors overseeing it. Then how terrifying was the real Night Chief? The gloomy young man standing in front of them now already had cultivation beyond the soul formation stage, and the pressure he felt was far greater than when he faced grenade-throwing senior immortal. About 5 grenade-throwing senior immortals? Zhuo thought in his heart. But one thing was certain, this person's cultivation wasn't at itinerant immortal level. Cheng Yu, the master of Immortal Mansion, was at peak late itinerant immortal stage, also known as half a step true immortal. Compared with the master of Immortal Mansion, this young man's strength was far inferior. Moreover, the master of Human Immortal Mansion had his own intrinsic spirit field, and with the help of the intrinsic spirit field, his combat strength was comparable to that of a true immortal. What's on Director Zhuo's mind? Thinking about how you're going to bury yourself tomorrow? This dual cultivation warrior from the Demon Hunters Association hadn't made a move yet, and his tone had been teasing them from beginning to end. When all was said and done, he and Zhonglang were only at the golden core stage, and in the eyes of this Demon Hunters Association warrior, they were nothing. Zhuo stared at the young man and kindly reminded him, if you leave now, you might still be alive. If you leave any later, you really won't be able to leave. The Demon Hunters Association warrior? Zhuo, you're as weak as a chicken. Even if I catch you and send you to Songhai First Prison, you won't be able to be locked up in the special cell with the bigwigs inside. You're not qualified at all. The gloomy Demon Hunters Association warrior looked coldly at Zhuo and gritted his teeth. Do you want to die? His aura was released all at once, and along with his anger, it almost turned into an invisible roar. Immense spiritual pressure bore down on them, and Zhuo and Zhonglang felt their bodies sink as half their feet sunk into the ground. I'm so nervous. Zhonglang frowned. Brother Zhuo, are these long johns really useful? Why do I feel so much pressure from the other side that I can't breathe? It's all right. Zhuo raised his eyebrows and pulled up Zhonglang's collar to take a look. Zhuo, you're wearing it the other way around. Chapter 613. These familiar dead fish eyes made Loopy Toad's fur tremble. After composing itself, Dog 2 also noticed that Jinka was lying next to Little Master Ling. The two of them were lying on their sides with their heads propped up as they stared at Loopy Toad, just like an old father with his son. Loopy Toad, actually, at that moment, Loopy Toad already knew what was going on. Little Master Ling had probably known long ago that it had gone to the demon world, and had even been thinking of ways to help it in secret. The golden light shield that Lord Ma had created after the teleportation definitely wasn't an effect of Lord Ma's, but had been set up by Little Master from the beginning. Sure enough, trying to hide it from Little Master Ling had really been a stupid choice. Do you have anything to say? Jinka asked Dog 2 with an expressionless face. Loopy Toad swallowed. When did you find out? From the very beginning, Jinka replied. Loopy Toad, then, that's right, we all saw your performance just now, Jinka said. Ling likes to peek at you, don't know. Loopy Toad. Wang Ling felt that Shen Weiyue had definitely led Jinka astray. Of all the things he could learn, he had to learn from Shen Weiyue to undermine him. Although Wang Ling hadn't said anything, that didn't mean he wouldn't punish Dog 2. He decided to punish Dog 2 in the cruelest way he could think of as a punishment for lying to his master. For the next month, Wang Ling wouldn't take Dog 2 out for a stroll anymore. He decided to let Dog 2 walk itself. When Wang Ling told Loopy Toad telepathically about his punishment, Loopy Toad gritted its teeth in pain. This punishment was indeed very cruel, really, too cruel. It jumped into Wang Ling's arms, tears streaming down its eyes. Loopy Toad looked at the time. It just so happened to be 6 in the morning. It was July 21st on Friday in the 13th week of the semester. It was time for little Master Ling to go to school. After this trip to the demon world, Loopy Toad had actually expected that its little master would be very angry when it came back. But as it turned out, he really was a very gentle person. It couldn't help taking out its diary and starting to write about its trip to the demon world last night. Loopy Toad had originally named this diary, Human Observation Diary, with the intention of promoting peace between the demon world and the human world. It recorded a lot of Loopy Toad's prejudices against humans when it was a demon king, as well as its changed view of these prejudices after living in the human world. Loopy Toad gave a general retelling of what had happened last night from beginning to end. Of course, there were 2 things it hadn't written down. One was the secret of Demon Saint's inheritance, and the other was the truth about second-generation Demon Saint's ascension to the throne. Both of these things were pretty confidential. That old man Shen Weiyue couldn't control it, but Loopy Toad felt that it was still pretty tight-lipped. There were some things that could be said and some things that could not be said. If this diary got out and other people saw it, second-generation Demon Saint would lose all his face. So tired. In the end, it wasn't very convenient to write with dog paws, and Dog 2's paws ached from writing. However, the handwriting of every entry in the diary had improved. In the beginning, the handwriting was like scribbled talismans. Now, it was beautiful and slim. Actually, Buttface felt a sense of accomplishment when he saw it. Success. Take a picture. Show it to Little Silver. In fact, Loopy Toad also wanted to show it to Wei Ji. After all, Wei Ji was one of the few good friends it had in the human world. But in the end, Loopy Toad was restricted by the contents of the diary. It felt that it wouldn't be good for Wei Ji to see it. What if it scared him? Not long after it sent the picture to Little Silver, about 2 minutes later, Dog 2's chat window vibrated. Little Silver, F***K. You went to the demon world. And you hid it from Master. Master actually didn't blame you? Loopy Toad shrugged its shoulders and replied a little proudly, maybe this is the power of the main character, Little Silver, Loopy Toad, you're our Ling Ling's second contract beast. Actually, I've always told little Master Ling that he wants to be fair, but he just likes to spoil me. What can I do? I'm also very helpless. Maybe it's because I'm cuter. I don't have to worry about food and I'm pleasing to the eyes. At night, I'm an environmentally friendly fluorescent eye protection lamp. Furthermore, I'm small and easy to carry around. I'm a must-have at home or on a trip. Look at you, you're such a big lump after transforming, and such a big one at that. It's definitely not worth it to keep you with me. Little Silver felt like he had been dealt a blow. Loopy Toad's words made him jealous beyond recognition, and he punched a hole directly in the sofa. No. This couldn't go on. Grenade throwing, grenade throwing. Little Silver couldn't help shouting. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal had been really busy. He hadn't been idle these 2 days as he had been investigating President Bai, who was still on the run. Not long ago, a mysterious person on the Cultivation Forum had leaked news that President Bai's foreign force, Night Chief, was now in chaos. A president called Edmark had been killed from a distance and died on the spot, by a ball-shaped magic weapon of unknown origin. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had specially looked into this Edmark before. He was the earliest founding elder of Night Chief when the organization was first established, and the leader of the 6 generals under Night Chief. Although Knight Chief didn't have a deputy leader position, Edmark's overall strength and experience were already at the level of a deputy leader. It could be said that under Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, who was at the helm of the organization, this President Edmark was above tens of thousands of people and an existence who could call the wind and summon the rain. But now, the leader of the 6 generals, Edmark, had died suddenly and inexplicably, which was quite puzzling. Who on earth did it? Could it be that someone else was watching this foreign force? Was it friend or foe? Nothing was known. While grenade throwing was thinking, Little Silver started to yell. "What's the matter, Brother Silver?" When he got up and came over to Little Silver's side, grenade throwing Senior Immortal saw the big hole in the broccoli sofa and immediately took a deep breath. "Brother Silver, the cost of this broccoli sofa will be deducted from your living expenses next month. It's a total of 500,000. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal was determined to help Little Silver completely correct his bad habit of breaking furniture when he got excited. Hearing the price of the sofa, Little Silver immediately hissed. "This sofa is so ugly, why is it so expensive?" The corners of grenade throwing Senior Immortal's mouth twitched. "Have you heard of raising a Kuan?" Little Silver bit his finger. "A web-based game?" Grenade throwing Senior Immortal, when someone played this game, they made a mistake. They raised the corpse Kuan into a rotten Kuan, but it smelled bad but tasted good. Little Silver, grenade throwing Senior Immortal smiled. "So the same principle applies to this sofa. It looks ugly, but it's expensive." Chapter 6:14. Little Silver really couldn't imagine that such an ugly sofa could actually be worth 500,000. Could it be that this broccoli sofa had been soaked in leopard bones? That shouldn't be the case. Forget it, 500,000 was 500,000. In any case, he had been on a diet during this time, so he couldn't eat much even if he ordered takeout. At worst, he wouldn't order the devil fruit this month. Every time he ordered takeout, the devil fruit always accounted for more than 50% of the cost. Little Silver felt that he shouldn't be so extravagant, and should save on the cost of food. Thinking this, he immediately sighed. It looked like he could only eat braised chicken and rice next month. How painful. After living with Little Silver for a while, grenade throwing Immortal had a basic understanding of Little Silver's habits. However, there was one thing that he hadn't expected from beginning to end. Silver's reverence for Brother Ling had almost reached a fanatical level. To be able to make a holy beast so open its heart to acknowledge a master, it could only be said that as expected of Brother Ling, grenade throwing Senior Immortal suddenly felt a little hurt for some reason. Although Little Silver was Brother Ling's contract beast, everyone had a responsibility to protect holy beasts. As Silver's current breeder, he had to think of a way to become stronger. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal cupped his chin and stared at the impatient Silver in front of him. "Brother Silver, what did you call me for?" "I wanted to ask, under what circumstances would Master take the initiative to walk the dog?" Little Silver asked solemnly. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal, walk the dog? This was a question that grenade throwing Senior Immortal hadn't expected, because walking the dog was a normal practice for dog owners, mainly to relieve the dog's boredom. Scientific research showed that if a dog was cooped up at home for a long time, it was very bad for its physical and mental health. Furthermore, this rule wasn't just for spirit dogs. Nowadays, many pet trainers had the habit of taking their spirit beasts out for a walk. But in the vast majority of cases, this was for spirit beasts that hadn't taken human form. There were many types of spirit beasts, and many of them were terrifyingly large. If this group of spirit beasts went out for a walk on their own, they could be in danger. Thus, the country had a unified rule that these spirit beasts had to be personally led by their masters before they could go out on the streets. Furthermore, there was a limit to their size. For spirit beasts that were too large, they were forbidden from going through some crowded and bustling streets, and had to take a detour. Why is Brother Silver suddenly concerned about this? Grenade throwing Senior Immortal was very curious about Little Silver's question. For a holy beast who had already transformed into a modern shut-in, it was really miraculous that he would actually care about going out to walk his dog. Little Silver sighed heavily. It's all because of that dog Boppy. Brother Dog, what's wrong? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked. Little Silver, it says that Master dotes on it alone. But it just received some punishment recently, and Master has decided not to take it out for a stroll for the next month, so I think this is a good opportunity for me to take over. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. Brother Silver, don't tell me, yes. That's right. Little Silver had a very serious expression on his face. I want Master to walk me. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was alarmed. But you can't reveal your beast form, otherwise you'll definitely be exposed. Have you forgotten your agreement with Brother Ling? Besides, Brother Ling himself doesn't like to show off too much. Little Silver shrugged. Then I'll go out in my human form. That's impossible, Brother Silver, give up. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal slapped his face. Going out in human form was fine, but wouldn't that be even more ostentatious? Whether it works or not, I have to give it a try. Little Silver grit his teeth and refused to give up. I've already booked a ride. I'll go to the Spirit Beast specialty store in the afternoon to take a look. Brother Silver, what do you want to do? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly had a bad feeling. To take a look at the collar, Little Silver answered seriously. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Little Silver set off in the afternoon with a cap on, and made an appointment at the entrance of Wenxian Garden Villa Estate. He was going to Songhai City's flagship Spirit Beast specialty store. This was the largest specialty store in the entire city, which specialized in selling Spirit Beast supplies. It had everything you could think of, including Spirit Beast food and all kinds of special protective equipment for Spirit Beasts. You could even customize magic treasures specifically for Spirit Beasts. But these magic treasures were a lot worse than Fatty Luo's custom-made ones, because most custom-made magic treasures were made directly from factory materials, and the quality of the magic treasures produced in bulk was basically the same. The flagship store was quite far from Wenxian Garden. In order to save money, Little Silver chose Didi Shun Feng's Spirit Car. The app was currently running a campaign. As long as you uploaded your photo and your real name, and got more than 1,000 likes in the community, you would get a discount on the first 10 rides. Little Silver had already made plans for today's trip early in the morning. He was quite confident in his photo. With his long, flowing hair and the heart gesture, he had already received more than 10,000 likes in the community by the time he left the house. Little Silver looked at the number of likes and was very pleased. He hadn't even added any filters, but he was already so popular. Actually, Little Silver had a very good foundation, whether he was skin polishing or not, and whether he added filters or not, the effect was the same. It looked like he indeed had the talent to be an actor. In fact, Little Silver had thought about finding a part-time job where he could get paid. Relying on Grenade-throwing's monthly allowance actually wasn't a problem. Furthermore, the most important thing was the additional expenses. Most of the allowance Grenade-throwing gave him was actually for food. If he used it to buy other things, it wouldn't be enough. Little Silver had heard Dog 2 mention before that Fatty Luo was preparing for a big movie. He wondered if he would have a chance to audition for it. As he left the house, Little Silver looked at the netizens' impressions of him. Tag 1, fair skin, beautiful long legs. Little Silver felt shy when he saw this tag. What kind of big truth was this? Tag 2, little sister is so good-looking. Little Silver. What kind of eyes did people have nowadays? He clearly had hair on his body. It was just that he couldn't tell because it was white. Tag 3, can't hold back at first glance. Little Silver scared, his emotions very complicated, because he didn't know whether this tag belonged to a man or a woman. He hoped it wasn't a pervert, who harbored improper thoughts about him. Little Silver checked these comments, and then saw the one with the most likes out of all the tags so far. Tag 4, too bad it's an airport. Chapter 6:15. The original intention of the personalized tag was to draw people closer, and a separate social platform was also good for networking, it was good for people to make a few more friends in the world. But the problem was that this was a taxi-hailing app, not a social app. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already reminded Little Silver of this when he had downloaded the app. He had just reached the door when Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal texted him again. "Brother Silver, be careful when you're out. Contact me anytime if anything happens." Little Silver stared at the message and smiled, his eyes pure as he immediately replied, "Don't worry, there aren't that many bad people in this world. It's better to be careful." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was mainly worried about Little Silver's identity being exposed. Safety was completely out of his consideration. Little Silver's overall fighting strength was much stronger than his. He was afraid that Little Silver wouldn't be careful and give himself away. In fact, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that every time Little Silver went out without anyone else, he would have a bad feeling. For example, the last 2 times Little Silver had gone out alone, he had somehow ended up at the police station. And the most important thing was that Little Silver went to the same police station each time. Songhai City's Anning District Cultivation Police Branch Station. Every time Little Silver went in, the entire police station wouldn't be at peace. After waiting at the door for a while, Little Silver saw a Didi Shun Feng Spirit car slowly drive over. He checked the license plate number on the app and frowned. Song A00544. He realized that the license plate number wasn't right. The license plate number shown on the app was A for 4944, but it seemed like this was the only hitchhiker nearby, and Little Silver immediately sensed that something wasn't right in the air. The hitchhiker was bald. When he saw Little Silver, he rolled down the window and stretched one arm out to greet him. "Beauty, get in. Your license plate number isn't right." Little Silver stared at the bald driver. "Also, I'm a boy." "Ah, Mr. Silver, I'm so sorry. You're so cute, just like a girl." The driver gave a very secretive smile. "Actually, whether it's a boy or a girl, anyone who gets in my car is definitely a cute kid. My surname is Lou. Today happens to be my birthday. If you choose to get on the bus, I can pay for it." There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Even a small serving of braised chicken and rice cost 15 renminbi per bowl. Moreover, in many cases, there were very few chicken pieces in the braised chicken and rice. Most of the chicken pieces were bones, chicken skin, potatoes, and green peppers. From Wenxian Garden to the Spirit Beast flagship store in the city center, it would cost 3,000 yuan just to take a taxi. How could this driver give him a free ride? "I'm afraid that he has improper thoughts about me. But as long as I get in the car, I can save 3,000 yuan. For a moment, Little Silver was at a loss. He could tell that the driver was interested in him. Should he get in or not? That was a problem. After a moment, Little Silver still decided to open the car door. Who cared if this driver had any feelings for him? He would take him for a ride first. Anyway, this driver was only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm, so there was no way he could do anything to him. When Little Silver opened the car door, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Didi Spirit car driver Lou in the rearview mirror curl his lips slightly and smile like a fish taking the bait. "Mr. Silver? Confirm your destination first. You're going to the flagship store specializing in Spirit Beast equipment, right?" Lu Zhenhua asked cautiously. "That's right." Little Silver nodded. "How long will it take to get there?" 2 hours should be enough, right?" "It won't take 2 hours, I'll be there in an hour. I can take a shortcut." Driver Lu chuckled. "Mr. Silver, are you going to the Spirit Beast store because you're raising some spirit beasts at home?" Most people had the impression that people who raised spirit beasts usually didn't have very high realms. That's right. How many spirit beasts? Aren't they awesome?" "Not bad." The driver kept asking questions, and Little Silver immediately realized that this driver was testing him. The aura on his body was usually restrained and maintained at the level of the late stage of the Foundation establishment stage, hiding his true realm. When this driver thought he was infallible when he sensed Little Silver's disguised realm, the smile on his face became even more smug. "So, Had he picked up a top-notch item today? Driver Lou couldn't help sticking out his tongue to lick his lips. Sitting in the back of the car, Little Silver pretended not to know, but he saw everything. Little Silver suddenly felt an impulse. He wanted to cut off this wretched person's tongue. Driver Lou was excited to ask the question he wanted. He stepped on the accelerator and sped forward. This Mr. Silver behind him had skin as white as a porcelain doll's. In any case, whether it was a boy or a girl, Driver Lou had some evil thoughts about him. And most importantly, not only was this person not very strong, he actually lived in a high-end villa area like Winsien Garden. Then this Mr. Silver was most likely the son of a rich family. He had really picked up a treasure today. Driver Lou felt that he could do whatever he wanted with this Mr. Silver, and then kidnap the other party to threaten his family. He couldn't be happier with wealth and lust. On the other side, Wang Ling heard some gossip about Didi spirit cars during his morning self-study session. This news wouldn't be reported until noon, but Dopigua had already gotten first-hand information through his uncle. Everyone, do you know that recently, there's a pervert called the all-eating crazy fiend? He's a Didi spirit car driver who preys on passengers. First he robs them, then he robs them of their money. In the end, whether or not they pay, they'll be killed. This person's methods are so cruel that it makes people's hair stand on end. A lot of golden core cultivators have already fallen prey to him, said Dopigua. Little Peanut couldn't help shivering. Good thing I don't take a taxi, this is too scary. Dopigua scared. That's not the scariest part. Do you know why he's called the all-eating crazy fiend? It's said that he doesn't look at the gender of his passengers, and his only requirement is that they look good. It doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman. Super Chen was startled. There's this kind of operation? Then wouldn't I be in danger? Everyone, Dopigua looked at Super Chen and smiled slightly. Super, it's not that I want to discourage you, you're not bad looking, but when he picks his passengers, he basically picks those with thin skin and tender flesh. He doesn't want Africans. Super Chen, after saying this, Dopigua added, someone like Wang Ling is just right. Chapter 6:16. Wang Ling realized that Dopigua had been a little jumpy recently, and would arrange things for him from time to time. Logically speaking, Wang Ling felt that his presence in class was already quite low, but on the contrary, he felt like he was always being watched. What was even stranger was that this feeling didn't make him feel uncomfortable. For some reason, Wang Ling felt that everyone in number 60 high had a very special affinity with him. Actually, Wang Ling felt that this was something worth pondering and thinking about. When he had created the intrinsic spirit field back then, he had directly used number 60 high for the background model. This was a subconscious reaction, and also reflected the weight number 60 high had in his heart. Number 60 high might not be the best school, but in Wang Ling's heart, it was at least the school that had left the deepest impression. 13 weeks into the semester, so many things had happened, and he had almost died of exhaustion. Teacher Pan taught the morning class, and there were 2 consecutive Tao Talismans lessons. Because the weather was a little gloomy and the sports meet had just ended, Teacher Pan felt that the students in class should be more focused. As a pioneer teacher at number 60 high, it could only be said that Teacher Pan was in the end Teacher Pan. Without even saying goodbye, she directly occupied the 3rd period of PE class and unceremoniously gave 3 lessons in a row. When Teacher Yi arrived, he just stood at the door of the classroom and knocked on it as a matter of routine. After seeing the look in Teacher Pan's eyes, he immediately shrank his head back and disappeared without a trace. Super Chen and Dopigua couldn't help raising their middle fingers at Teacher Yi to express their deep protest at his cowardly behavior. As a PE teacher, how could he bow down to the rich and powerful like this? Teacher Yi, you have to be tough. You have to be tough. But unfortunately, Teacher Yi had left just like that, like a fragrant concubine who had turned into a butterfly. He left no trace behind. The school class schedule was arranged scientifically by the teaching consultants of the General Administration of 100 schools according to the habits of each school's students. This arrangement took into account a lot of factors, such as the rate at which students raised their hands in class, the rate at which they raised their heads, and so on. There was even some data that could be precise, down to the length of eye contact with the lecturer. Wang Ling originally didn't know about these things, and had only heard about them from Audiobook. So sometimes, 3 classes in a row wouldn't have a particularly good effect. Usually, Teacher Pan occupied class time for nothing more than dictation and tests, but this time, contrary to everyone's expectations, she actually used the 3rd period to hold a class meeting for everyone. Old Pan stood on the podium and scanned the class with an expression as if she knew everything. I know. When I asked Teacher Yi to leave just now, someone must have criticized me in their hearts, right? Super Chen and Dopey Gua didn't dare say anything. Old Pan, Super Chen, Dopey Gua. Don't look at me and laugh. I'm talking about the 2 of you. Smiling isn't a good thing. Super Chen and Dopey Gua, Old Pan knew them too well. In this class meeting, I want to talk to everyone about Devil Valley. I wonder if anyone has heard of this? As soon as Old Pan finished speaking, the class fell into a dead silence. They were all shocked. Many students in the elite class read a lot of extracurricular knowledge, so many of them were stunned when they heard the news. Devil Valley? Isn't this a mystic realm that only opens once every 100 years? Devil Valley is a nationally protected 5A mystic realm, and is also known as Beast King's remains. Rumor has it that Devil Valley is the tomb that Devil King, the king of holy beasts, built for itself. Teacher Pan said, our country has already detected the entrance to the mystic realm this time, and it's within Songhai City. The most important thing is that our grade 1 class is very lucky. Secretary Dakong of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools has personally approved our grade 1 summer camp this year to be held in Devil Valley. There was actually such a good thing. Everyone had stupefied expressions on their faces. To be able to visit Devil Valley, the legendary Beast King's remains, with their own eyes, this was truly a rare opportunity that could only be encountered, not sought. If Teacher Pan hadn't personally announced it, no one would have believed it even if Dopey Gua had been the first to hear it and announce it in class. Old Pan smiled. This is an opportunity for all of you. I hope everyone can make good use of this summer camp. After class, Peanut, come to my office to give out the notice of the summer camp. When you go back, ask your parents to sign it. It won't be dangerous, right? It won't be. Since it's an operation for all grade 1 students this time, all of our grade 1 teachers will take action to ensure everyone's safety, Teacher Pan said. There was one thing Teacher Pan didn't say, and that was the overall commander of this operation. The overall commander wasn't the Alliance of 10,000 Schools, but Huaxiao Alliance of Cultivators. It controlled the highest leadership department of all the light forces in Huaxiao Nation. Information on all the light forces was registered and recorded by Huaxiao Alliance, and it had direct control over the light forces nationwide. Its direct leaders were the founding head of state of Huaxiao Nation as well as the 10 generals. Huaxiao Alliance would directly intervene in matters of safety. Actually, Teacher Pan felt that the school teachers would be redundant. No one expected the summer camp organized by the school this time to actually be held in Devil Valley, and word spread as soon as class was over. First, it spread to grade 2 and grade 3, and then, with number 60 high as the epicenter, all the other high schools in Peiyuan district posted all kinds of envious, jealous, and hateful posts online. Devil Valley was a 5A secret land. Every year, when the entrance was opened, the country would seal off and regulate it, and only some approved academic experts would be allowed to enter with the inspection team to gather intelligence on Devil Valley. Hence, this place wasn't a place that anyone could enter just because they wanted to. Furthermore, each year, the inspection team would go through strict control and approval, and the number of people would be kept under control. Hence, the Alliance of 10,000 Schools directly named Devil Valley as the location for the summer camp this time. A lot of people didn't understand this operation. After school, Dopey Gua suddenly said, a lot of people are saying that the remains we're going to might be fake. What do you think? Little Peanut, actually, I think it might be fake. There are a lot of extinct resources in Devil Valley. How can we, a bunch of Foundation establishment students, go there? Not necessarily, Super Chin retorted. I feel that this activity might have been arranged beforehand. Maybe the higher-ups are using us as a secret weapon. Dopigwa didn't understand. Secret weapon? What do you mean? Think about it, Super Chin analyzed. The last time we held a spirit sword exchange meet, Shadow Stream was beaten to a pulp. Then we held a military training for 6 schools, and the old devil was beaten to a pulp. This time, we're holding a joint summer camp. When Super Chin said this, everyone in class thought about it in extreme fear. Chapter 617. Even Wang Ling hadn't expected that the school's summer camp would actually be held in Devil Valley. This was a 5A state-protected secret land, and even a team of experts from a state agency had to go through the agency level by level every year to apply for permission, and there was no guarantee that it would be approved. This time, it was actually directly opened up as a summer camp location for students, which was a little unimaginable to Wang Ling. He knew that Fatty Luo had been eyeing this place for a long time. In order to search for the 1,000 dried bones, the main material for making Jinka's scabbard, Fatty Luo had started planning to enter Devil Valley several months ago, and had even obtained an expert certificate. In the end, after Fatty Luo's painstaking planning for so long, the opportunity to enter Devil Valley had fallen into his lap just like that. Wang Ling vaguely had a bad feeling. He felt that what Super Chin said wasn't unreasonable. Every time there was a group activity, it felt like something big was going to happen. It was already around 4:00 at the moment, and it had already been a full 4 hours since Little Silver had left Wenxian Garden. There were several congested sections in the middle, so Driver Lu suggested that Little Silver take a detour, which Little Silver didn't refuse. In the end, Driver Lu turned the steering wheel in the opposite direction and drove the car to an unfamiliar section of the road that Little Silver had never seen before. When he had gotten in the car, Little Silver had already been wary of this driver. Then, he had looked up recent incidents involving Didi Shun Feng's spirit cars online, and found information on someone called Gobbler Crazy Demon. This was the fugitive criminal suspect who had recently been involved in several robberies. Little Silver compared the information online and couldn't help sighing in his heart. He was too unlucky. It's already been 4 hours, hey, isn't it time yet? Little Silver was a little impatient. He didn't know what on earth this Driver Lu was up to. We're almost there, Mr. Silver. Lu Zhenhua licked his lips. Because the other roads were too congested, we had to take a detour. If you take those congested roads, I'm afraid Mr. Silver won't be able to arrive even at night. The car was still moving. Through the rearview mirror, Lu Zhenhua saw Mr. Silver, who looked like a pretty girl, sitting in the back seat with his arms crossed and an impatient expression on his face. Don't be anxious, Mr. Silver. Let's listen to the music first. Lu Zhenhua smiled strangely. Then, he touched the small mechanism behind the steering wheel, and the doors were instantly sealed. He had modified the car, and when this small mechanism was triggered, it would activate the independent secret lock on the door, so that all the doors except for the driver's seat would be sealed silently. Then, he turned on the music play button, and melodious music began to play from the car stereo, but the music was mixed with something else. This stereo had also been modified by Driver Lu. It wasn't just a simple stereo. Little Silver immediately sensed it. When he focused his gaze on the sound system, he could see some white powder dispersing from the beehive-like sound port to the music, which dissolved little by little in the air and then turned into nothingness. This was a very secretive method. If one's cultivation level was too low, they would not be able to detect it at all. No wonder there were many Aurus Core stage cultivators in the previous reports, and even one nascent soul stage cultivator had fallen for this trick. If one didn't have enough precautions, it was very easy to fall for this trick. Some people might be on their guard when they saw the driver suddenly turn on the air conditioner, but most people wouldn't expect a hallucinogen to be transmitted through the car stereo. As long as the music was played, the hallucinogen would spread little by little along with the vibration of the melody, turning into a stream of air until it filled the entire car. Seeing that his plan was going smoothly, Lu Zhenhua couldn't help laughing sinisterly in his heart. He had spent a lot of money to get this hallucinogen from the black market, Even a nascent soul cultivator would feel dizzy and unable to use spirit energy when standing in it, so this hallucinogen was called drunk baby drunk powder. The most important thing was that this hallucinogen could be transmitted in a variety of ways. It could be used through vibration, immersion, and so on. In order to work as discreetly as possible, Lu Zhenhua modified his car's stereo system. There was an independent groove inside that could store the psychedelic powder. As long as the music was played, the light psychedelic powder would turn into a stream of air and fly out from the small hole in the stereo system along with the melody. Even a nascent soul cultivator would only need 5 seconds to be knocked out when the hallucinogen turned into a stream of air and filled the car. At that moment, Lu Zhenhua was sneering in his heart. He looked at the time. 5 seconds had passed in the blink of an eye. Mr. Silver was in perfect condition. Lu Zhenhua. Could it be that the effect of his powder had expired? That couldn't be. He had just put this packet of hallucinogen in the car not long ago, and he had confirmed its expiration date before. This type of hallucinogen had a shelf life of more than 3 years. Furthermore, this was just a foundation establishment cultivator. Shouldn't he be knocked out by a whiff? Crossing his arms, Little Silver looked at Driver Lu's black face full of question marks and couldn't help laughing in his heart. Then, 30 seconds passed. Driver Lu met the smiling face of this, Mr. Silver, in the rearview mirror, and his heart instantly turned cold. Little Silver, you're that crazy demon, right? Lu Zhenhua narrowed his eyes. I don't know what Mr. Silver is talking about, Little Silver. I already saw the many mechanisms you set up in the car after you changed your appearance. You probably did something to the stereo, right? I saw some white powder inside. It's probably a hallucinogen. Hearing this, Lu Zhenhua immediately braked, and the expression on his face changed from a harmless smile to a fiendish one as he stared at Little Silver. When did you find out? I was a little suspicious when I got in the car, and only confirmed your identity after I looked up some information on the internet. Little Silver spread his hands. Lu Zhenhua found it very strange. You didn't think about running? Little Silver was even more baffled. Why should I run? You're clearly the one who should run. Lu Zhenhua, also, I've been thinking about a very philosophical question since just now. TOB or not TOB? Should I get rid of you? Because when you run into a bad guy, TOing or not TOing doesn't work. Little Silver analyzed the situation with a straight face. But when my master signed the contract with me, he said that I'm not allowed to casually kill people. If someone like you just dies like this, it'll be too easy on you. You. Lu Zhenhua gritted his teeth. He realized that this very pretty Mr. Silver in front of him wasn't at the foundation establishment stage at all. This was a tough nut to crack. Although he couldn't tell what realm Mr. Silver specifically was at, given that Little Silver's hallucinogen powder was ineffective, this person was at least a soul formation expert. Don't move. I've already sealed the car doors. Lu Zhenhua took out a crystal ball from his chest pocket. This is a spirit bullet. It will explode if I crush it. Get out of my car now and we'll pretend we never met. Otherwise, I don't mind dragging someone down with me. But as soon as Lu Zhenhua said this, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his hand. Bah! Little Silver directly spat on Lu Zhenhua's palm, and in severe pain, Lu Zhenhua realized that his palm had been dissolved along with the spirit bullet. Ah! Lu Zhenhua let out a pained scream as his hand instantly melted like an ice cube under high heat. He was going to call the police. Police uncle. Chapter 618. Driver Lu screamed as Little Silver's phlegm instantly dissolved his entire right hand all the way to his elbow. The most frightening thing was that even though it had dissolved, there wasn't a single drop of blood seeping out of the wound. What Lu Zhenhua felt was the continuous burning pain of his right forearm being dissolved. It was as if someone had lit a lighter to roast the wound, and Lu Zhenhua's face instantly turned pale. Do you have anything to tell me? Little Silver looked at Driver Lu with a harmless smile on his face. That mouthful of phlegm just now seemed very casual, but it was actually a very meticulous operation. Little Silver could spit down to the microgram. Thus, Little Silver had specially controlled that mouthful of phlegm just now, otherwise this driver Lou would have been directly dissolved on the spot like those two fellow disciples of the Demon Hunters Association back then, and not even his bones would have been left. Why didn't he just directly kill this scumbag driver? Little Silver's reason was very clear: his master didn't like him to casually kill people. Another very important point was that Little Silver felt that letting this kind of scumbag die just like that was really too easy. Reincarnation was a natural cycle. Who would the heavens spare? This evil driver, who had already harmed who knew how many boys and girls, probably never thought that he would receive this kind of retribution. Even if you hand me over to the police, I won't live for long. I have 3 months at most. Lu Zhenhua's face was covered in sweat from the pain and he was deathly pale. I have a terminal disease, golden core cancer. There's a tumor in your golden core? Little Silver was alarmed. Yes, and it's terminal. There's no way it can be cured. Lu Zhenhua gritted his teeth with a pained expression. His expression was very dark. So, I hope that before I die, I can bring some fear to this world. I want the entire world of martial arts to remember me. The existence of the all-conquering demon, golden core cancer, was the only terminal cancer that hadn't been cured. If it was just a pathological change in an organ, modern cultivation medicine could already completely cure it. But golden core cancer couldn't, and there were many problems involved. If a golden core cultivator's golden core was shattered, they actually wouldn't be able to live for long. Therefore, if the gold core was directly removed, for these gold core stage cultivators, it might be more painful than death. Once the golden core in one's body was removed, although the disease could be prevented, one's lifespan would be greatly shortened. Most importantly, once the golden core was removed, one would no longer be able to cultivate. Therefore, the perfect solution was to directly kill the diseased tissue inside the golden core without affecting it. But this had always been a medical problem. Furthermore, the chances of a cultivator's golden core developing a disease were actually very low. The probability was 1 in 100 million, therefore, Lu Zhenhua was one of the winners, among the 1 in a billion. A hateful person was bound to be pitiful. It was true that Lu Zhenhua was a pitiful person, but Little Silver didn't think he deserved any sympathy. Sooner or later, he would have to pay for what he had done. Little Silver felt that there was a saying that was very true: the cultivation world was vast, and everyone had a different way of making their presence known in it. There were those who did good and enjoyed the praise of the world. There were also those who did evil, and those who were notorious. Both of these were ways to make people remember. But it was a pity that what was recorded and praised throughout the ages would always be those good deeds that promoted virtue. So if you wanted to rely on this kind of notoriety to make a name for yourself in the cultivation circle, don't ever say that you were from the cultivation world. The world didn't care about you at all. Little Silver pursed his lips, then bit his finger. Before the wound healed on its own, he hurriedly squeezed out a drop of blood and directly flicked it into Lu Zhenhua's mouth. Driver Lu's pained expression was puzzled. What did you do? Nothing, I just prolonged your life. Little Silver spread his hands. Of course, there was nothing he could do about a disease that even modern cultivation medicine couldn't cure. But holy beast blood could be used to prolong one's life. Lu Zhenhua tasted blood. But strangely, the moment this blood entered his body, he felt the disease in his body ease considerably. The trembling that he felt from time to time due to the disease in his golden core had disappeared. Not only that, even the burning sensation in his melted right forearm had lessened. That drop of holy beast blood just now had extended Lu Zhenhua's life by a full 10 years. Lu Zhenhua turned pale with fright. Who the hell are you? One mouthful of phlegm had made him feel as if he had fallen off a cliff, and one drop of blood had brought him back from the dead. In that moment, Lu Zhenhua realized the gap between their absolute strength. It would be as easy as pie for this Mr. Silver in front of him to do anything to him. This guy wasn't a normal person at all, reflect on it. I'll call the police now, and you'll spend the last days of your life in prison with Soap and your cellmates. Little Silver crossed his arms and said solemnly. Lu Zhenhua realized that things weren't looking good. He wanted to get out of the car, but found that he couldn't move at all as an oppressive force froze him from head to toe. Compared with this, Mr. Silver, his weak fighting strength wasn't in the same dimension at all. However, just as Little Silver was about to take out his phone to call the police, he suddenly heard the sound of sirens rising and falling from the roadside. Little Silver was startled. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? With two motorcycles clearing the way, they directly bypassed Lu Zhenhua's car and stopped in front of it. Then, a uniformed police officer got out of a police car behind the car and knocked on the window of the taxi. "Get out, it's a routine inspection." Lu Zhenhua's pupils immediately contracted slightly when he saw the uniform, and his body straightaway went limp like a deflated balloon. It was over, it was all over. This was from the traffic team. They couldn't stop on this road. Lu Zhenhua guessed that he had been here for too long, which was why he had been targeted. Little Silver rolled down the window and smiled at the police officer. "Hi." The police officer looked inside and noticed that there was something wrong with the expression on the driver's face, and he frowned. "Mr. Driver, please show me your ID." Lu Zhenhua frowned, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. The police officer already knew what was going on. "Since that's the case, please come with us." Also, after saying that, the police officer looked at Little Silver. "This lady, please come with us." Little Silver, 7:00 in the evening, Songhai City's Anning District Cultivation Police Station. Little Silver arrived at the familiar police station once again. But unlike the previous two times, he wasn't wearing handcuffs this time. The people at the police station were already very familiar with this regular, and a pretty policewoman warmly made him a cup of tea. Holding the teacup, Little Silver didn't wait long in the chair in the interrogation room before Officer Gao Tian, who had taken Little Silver's statement the previous two times, pushed open the door and entered. The moment he saw Little Silver, Officer Gao's expression couldn't help twitching. Why was it this guy again? Little Silver saw Officer Gao open his little notebook and immediately began to introduce himself in a very familiar manner. Name, Little Silver. Gender, male. Single, no bad habits. Favorite things are eating, watching TV shows and playing games. It had been this process the previous two times, and Little Silver was really too familiar with it. Officer Gao looked up at Little Silver. "Why?" Little Silver was very honest. "I wanted to buy myself a collar." Chapter 619. Officer Gao, are you thinking about something very rude? Cupping his chin, Little Silver felt that something wasn't right with Officer Gao's expression. His face had clearly been serious just now, so why was he suddenly blushing? He was definitely thinking about something dirty. There were only a few things a person could do when they blushed. Although Little Silver had never seen anything dirty before, mainly because grenade throwing wouldn't let him, he knew a little about it. Officer Gao was ashamed and speechless. He was indeed thinking about something not so good. After all, buying a collar for himself didn't necessarily have to be for thrills. Officer Gao tried hard to compose himself and asked, "Did you buy a collar for yourself because your neck hurt?" Officer Gao recalled the rehabilitative collars that had appeared on the market before, which were used to protect the spine, so not all collars were improper. Like sea cucumber fried noodles, sea cucumbers were also divided into proper sea cucumbers and improper sea cucumbers. For example, just like authors were also divided into serious authors and those who did not engage in serious work. Yes, that had to be it. He could see that he was the one who had misunderstood. As a righteous police officer who served the people wholeheartedly, how could he think of anything else? Gao Tian. You have to pull yourself together, Gao Tian. However, Little Silver quickly shook his head. No, I bought the collar to let my master know that I'm wearing it for you. My master took me for a walk on the street. Master, walk, on the streets, Officer Gao, Mr. Little Silver, your master is, it had to be said that without knowing Little Silver's true identity at all, it was indeed very easy to make all kinds of associations from a purely human point of view. Officer Gao didn't feel good at all. This Silver in front of him was a little troublesome. Master? Master is my master. My master is very strong. Just like the lyrics. Little Silver suddenly thought of the lyrics of a song that had become popular recently. Officer Gao, what song? Little Silver directly sang. Elder brother trained his chest muscles. If you still want to walk, Officer Gao, Little Silver, our master's chest muscles are for me to walk on. Officer Gao, this matter was slightly more troublesome than the previous two, because the driver who was arrested was none other than the eating maniac who had caused a ruckus recently. Now that the gobbling crazy demon had been arrested just like that and was missing his right forearm, Little Silver definitely wouldn't be able to escape. Logically speaking, Little Silver had actually acted bravely for a just cause, but he had still been too heavy-handed. In fact, it wasn't easy to determine whether or not Little Silver was specifically responsible for the injuries. However, when Lu Zhenhua was brought into the police station with his head covered, the surrounding media, passers-by, and even the police officers who were maintaining order at the scene, many people felt that their anger had been vented. They felt that the hero who had removed Lu Zhenhua's arm had done a great job. When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal found out that Little Silver had gone to the police station, it was actually after 6:00 that night. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always had an ominous premonition, and sure enough, it had come true. Hello, are you Mr. Grenade-throwing? Brother Little Silver is at our police station again. On the other end of the phone, Officer Gao called Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal with practiced ease. In fact, the second time Little Silver had come, Officer Gao had cleverly saved Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's cell phone in his address book. After working as a police officer for a long time, one would develop a very strange intuition. For example, Officer Gao was able to distinguish people who might come to the police station every now and then. As it turned out, Officer Gao's judgment was completely correct. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, what did he do this time? Spit again? No one knew Little Silver better than Grenade-throwing. Officer Gao sighed deeply. The suspect we arrested this time said that Mr. Little Silver dissolved his arm with a mouthful of phlegm. This should be some kind of spell, right? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Yes, Officer Gao, you can think of it that way. Actually, this wasn't a spell, but an ability that came with Little Silver as a holy beast. But at this stage, Little Silver's identity still needed to be kept strictly confidential. So it was actually not a bad idea to let this misunderstanding continue. Like I said, it's a spell. But Mr. Little Silver insists that it's an ability that comes with him. On the phone, Officer Gao was very gloomy. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Officer Gao, if Mr. Little Silver's phlegm really has this ability, who would dare kiss him if he got chronic pharyngitis in the future? One kiss and his tongue would be gone. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Officer Gao continued, Mr. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, the current situation is like this. The suspect, Lu Zhenhua, feels that Mr. Little Silver's phlegm caused him to be disabled, and wants to hold Mr. Little Silver legally responsible. He dares? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was alarmed. This perverted driver had done so many outrageous things, but actually dared to bite back. How could a person be this shameless? Officer Gao, although I think Mr. Little Silver's way of doing things is very satisfying, if they really want to pursue this matter, the other party can indeed try to hold him responsible for excessive defense. Suddenly, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression turned serious. Do you know Secretary Yen? Little Silver works for Secretary Yen. Secretary Yen, for some reason, after hearing the words, Secretary Yen, Officer Gao suddenly felt his brain tremble. Mr. Little Silver works for some leader? Officer Gao pondered in his heart. Combined with Little Silver's previous statement, master, collar, out on the streets, for a moment, Officer Gao felt a chill run down his spine, and his entire body shivered. F***K. Did he find out something incredible? The long silence made grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frown. Officer Gao, what's wrong? Why aren't you saying anything? Officer Gao broke out in a sweat. Mr. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, can I ask you a question? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Officer Gao, go ahead. Officer Gao, is Secretary Yan's chest muscle hard? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, after taking the statement, it was already 7:00 in the evening when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took Little Silver out of the police station. Given the vile nature of the gobbling crazy demon incident and the very mysterious Secretary Yan, the Anning District Police Station still concluded that Little Silver's phlegm was legitimate defense. The prerequisite was that Little Silver had to cooperate with the police and testify in court. Of course, there was also the standard good and heroic citizen pennant and the media interview, which grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had rejected on Little Silver's behalf. He felt that it was better to keep a low profile. On the way, Little Silver listened to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal talk about what had happened just now, and was puzzled. Secretary Yan? Who is this Secretary Yan? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, I just made it up. Little Silver. Chapter 620. When he came back on Friday night, Wang Ling took the parents' notification form for Devil Valley's Beast King's Remains summer camp and asked Father Wang to sign it. Just like before, Father Wang didn't even look at it before he confidently signed his name, Wang Jiao, on it. His hand was like a dancing dragon and dancing phoenix, and it was impressively his signature under his real name. Wang Ling glanced at Father Wang's signature. It was the same as before, and he couldn't tell that it was Wang Jiao. This made Wang Ling sigh from the bottom of his heart. When all was said and done, he was a veteran artist in the online novel circle. After signing, Father Wang put down his pen and returned the notification form to Wang Ling. Learn to sign more of my signature. In the future, you can sign this kind of form yourself. Also, the same rules apply to this activity. Keep a low profile. If you really run into any danger, remember to leave them alive. You've already sent 3 people to prison before, so you can consider sending 1 more to play mahjong. Wang Ling. Then, Wang Ling saw Father Wang turn around in his chair and start typing. Wang Ling didn't look carefully at the content on the screen. In any case, it didn't look like Father Wang was typing, but editing something. After putting away the notification form and returning to his room, Wang Ling peeked through the door with his king's eye and saw that Father Wang was editing an article on the official account. As a top guru on the website, the number of people on Father Wang's official account wasn't any less than on other platforms. Basically, every article he published had millions of views. But Father Wang very rarely took time out to write articles on the official account. It was already pretty good if he could write 1 or 2 articles a month. Based on the style of the audience on the official account, Father Wang would use short stories to fill in some of the more popular events. Some were warm, some were funny, and some were sarcastic. Like the short stories he had published previously, the one with the highest number of views had already broken 10 million. The title was, Wang Situ's Imagination, Brother Gluten and Wandering Poet. For a short story like this that was filled with imagination, it was much more difficult to manipulate than those chicken soup novels. Brother Gluten and the Wandering Poet. Synopsis. This is the story of a beggar who picked up rubbish to eat on the road and a street gluten singer, Brother Gluten. From their meeting to knowing each other. It's just like the lyrics of a song, gluten in the morning, eating happily. I met this brother, he was eating rubbish. Eating rubbish, thinking of the past, I can't imagine what his past was. Roast the gluten, tell me what's in your heart, roast all your grievances and changes over the years. Wang Ling recalled the synopsis of this short story. He remembered hearing this song in the synopsis. After Father Wang had written the lyrics, it had been directly sung by a powerful book friend. This short story, which Father Wang had adapted from reality, was still fresh in Wang Ling's memory. In the story, Brother Gluten, who had a dream of making music, met a beggar poet brother. Brother Gluten saw this beggar brother picking up rubbish to eat on the side of the road, and felt very sorry for him, so he took this beggar brother with him to participate in the Voice of Cultivation's music audition. From meeting to knowing each other, the two brothers encouraged each other. Several times when Brother Gluten was at a loss, it was the beggar brother who recited poems to him and helped him open his heart. After 3 long years of hard work, Brother Gluten finally won the 3rd edition of the Voice of Cultivation's competition. But at this glorious moment, his best brother, the wandering poet, chose to leave without saying goodbye. Many years later, in order to find this brother of his, Brother Gluten used the money he had earned from his music career to invest a large amount of cultivation resources in cultivation, and traveled the world in search of clues about his beggar brother, the wandering poet. Apart from singing and cultivating, Brother Gluten didn't forget to practice his gluten baking technique to the extreme when he missed them. He wanted to use his most mature gluten baking technique to bake gluten for his brother to eat the day he found the poet and beggar. After that, Brother Gluten's actions influenced an almighty called Taoist Maiba, who told him that there was a spell that could instantly make the person he missed the most appear in front of him. But he needed to collect spirit stones that represented power, time, space, soul, reality, and spirit. Over the next decade or so, Brother Gluten traveled all over the world to collect these 6 gems. Finally, he ground them into powder and mixed them into the flour used to bake gluten to make a pair of infinite gluten gloves. In the final moment of the story, Brother Gluten's face was full of excitement as he recalled his past with the beggar and the wandering poet, and he snapped his fingers, and then, there was no then, the story ended here. No one knew whether Brother Gluten would really be able to find the brother he missed the most after this snap, just as Taoist Maiba had said. No one knew whether this pair of brothers in hardship would ever have the chance to reunite. And no one knew whether Brother Gluten had painstakingly cultivated the gluten baking technique to the extreme just to make this ultimate gluten skewer when they met again, or whether it tasted good or not. In any case, Wang Ling remembered that it was this open-ended ending that had instantly caused Father Wang's short story to take a turn. And now, it seemed that Father Wang was writing a sequel to Brother Gluten and the Wandering Poet. Wang Ling sneaked a peek in his room. What was it like to be the son of a deadly author? It was like being one step ahead of everyone else to try something new. It was obvious that Father Wang had thought about this story for a long time. He didn't get stuck at all as he typed, and after roughly an hour, he finished writing the short story. While Father Wang was checking for typos, Wang Ling took the opportunity to watch the sequel to Brother Gluten and Wandering Poet 2. In this story, Father Wang revealed the reason why the wandering poet had left without saying goodbye back then. The second story said, on the eve of Brother Gluten's victory that year, the wandering poet learned that someone wanted to harm him. In order to protect his good brother, the wandering poet prayed in front of the barbecue stall. He was willing to never eat gluten again in this life for Brother Gluten's safety. This move moved Taoist Maiba, who showed up and told the wandering poet away. As long as the wandering poet was willing to split himself into 6 spirit stones representing power, time, space, soul, reality and spirit, he would be able to unleash the power of praying to the fullest. If one day, someone could gather these 6 spirit stones together and make them into a glove, the wandering poet could come back to life with a snap of their fingers. But the price was that the person who snapped their fingers. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.